Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Stardom Road podcast. It's been a long time coming, obviously. It's been probably a month and a half by the time this episode's out from the last one.
Mhm.
But I am your host, as always, Scott Edwards. And with me, as always, is Trent Brewer. Hopefully, you've all come back and excited to listen to more Stardom history and whatnot. If you wanted history, though, we're not going that far back. So tough. But
It's been a
Trent,
couple of weeks, so it's a kind
yeah.
of history.
So Trent, how have you been in the waiting period? Obviously, there's been a 5-star Grand Prix that took up a lot of our
Mhm.
time, and other life things. So how have you been?
I've been good because last time you talked to me and everyone was listening to me, it was winter in Australia. And now that you're talking to me now, it's spring, which tells you, despite a very condensed 5-star Grand Prix, a lot has changed in the world. Life is moving on. Things are getting brighter and sunnier in at least the southern hemisphere. So things are going pretty well. But it feels significantly brighter on my end in terms of camera quality. Not that the cameras changed. But things are feeling a sunnier disposition maybe in the world. So yeah, things are going well. Uh, you know, 5-star Grand Prix was good. We're moving forward in the world with both Stardom and Life. So yeah, it's good to be back. It feels like a longer time than I think it actually was. And I think that's primarily because we don't normally take much of a break with the 5-star Grand Prix. Even if we do try and batch record, like if we're doing like a
Yeah.
series, we talk about batch recording, but we never actually do. It's like, oh,
Yes.
we're doing like a series of 3 things. Let's, smack them out, and so we can get a chance to breathe. And then we record an episode and go, cool, okay. No, actually, we actually have to
Yeah.
prepare the next episode. And like, okay, well, we'll do that, and then we don't, and then we
Mhm.
end up just keeping to a normal schedule. So having a month and a bit off was weird. So it's
Mm.
good to be back.
Yeah, I think this is also the first year that you and me didn't record a review for the 5-star final together. We usually do that
Yes.
every year. We've done that past 2 years, I
Mm,
think. So or maybe 3. I think 3 years ago might have been when Shuri won. That might have been the first time we ever recorded together overall.
yeah,
So this
the
was kind of
history
the
making episode.
this was the big change up. We didn't do it this year. I didn't even watch it live, so I couldn't have done it. That was the big curveball for me. It's like everything's
Well,
thrown
funnily
off.
enough, it would have made it easier for you to actually probably record with
Yeah.
me because
Yeah.
you weren't
No, you're not
working
wrong.
around the time zone. But
You make a very good point. But this year's just been different, obviously,
mm,
in the world of stardom. So it's only right to, I guess, that changed up as well. But we are here to talk. We're still going to talk about the 5-star Grand Prix. We're going to get that episode put out here on the Stardom Road podcast. If you read the thumbnail, you know what this is all about. We are ranking 5-star Grand Prix 2024 on another tier list. So this time, the performances of the competitors in the tournament. That is a lot of competitors. And I know that because I watched every single match every single day. I reviewed it youtube.com/at Scott E Wrestling. If you want to, I wouldn't go back and watch them because it's very much long over. But if you want to, I'm doing the Dreamstar Grand Prix right now. So there is
mhm.
new content at least on there. But yeah, a lot has happened, but we are right back at it. We took the break. We appreciate everyone waiting and being patient. We're happy to get right back at it. So why dance around it? Why not just get to the rest of the show? We're gonna hit the tier list. We love to do tier lists if you couldn't figure it out. Because this is another one we're doing. So, like I said, the 5-star Grand Prix 2024 performances tier list here. We are going to rate every single match counts for every wrestler. So if they got to a um play in, if they got to the quarterfinal, semifinal, finals, or it was just block action, we are going to rate them based on their performances. We will also just say like who we felt were block MVPs. Pay some respect to some wrestlers
Mhm.
along the way. You'll pretty much figure out who were block MVPs, probably based on what they were saying, except for Blue Stars B. Anyways, um,
And this is based on performance, both in ring and points as well. So, like, just because you score the most points in a block or you win the tournament doesn't necessarily mean you automatically get an S ranking.
yeah,
You've got to
no,
deliver it in the ring as well. Just to
yeah,
up on
yeah.
that.
Yeah, because for me, with the way booking is going lately, the in-ring performance matters 20 times more. But that's fine. But we're
It
gonna
could work in your favor, it might not work in your favor. Like, there's some wrestlers here who didn't win every match, but I
no.
thought did pretty well.
There's a wrestler here that won 0 matches, actually 2. But one of them is now world champion. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you win or lose in the
It's
tournaments. You can
whose
just
line is
become
it
world.
anyway? Wrestling edition.
Exactly. But this should be a lot of fun. But before we get into it, I will ask you, Trent, how did you enjoy the new version of the 5-star Grand Prix?
Look, I don't think we necessarily verbalized it too much on the Stardom Road podcast, but for those who are maybe following me on Twitter or just privately, I was hesitant going into the 4 block action and not so much the live scheduling. I think everyone was kind of on board with that, but the condensed schedule, the 3 week schedule, I think mostly the changes work pretty well. The 4 blocks work better than I intended. There are tweaks that can be made next year here and there. I still think maybe bumping it out an extra week would benefit everyone. Running random Tuesday and Thursday shows probably doesn't need to be done, and protect the wrestlers with 1 extra week. A 3 week in block schedule and then 1 week for the playoffs and stuff. I don't think that hurts anyone in the long run. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, like the condensed schedule, yeah, realizing just running every show with nothing but block matches, bar maybe one, pre-show match, that's a smart move, and I don't think anyone would be complaining about that, let alone the people who were attending the shows and buying the tickets. That worked really well. So overall, like I think it worked well. Some minor scribbles here and there, but like for a first-time booker with the 4 block action, the one thing I will credit Okada particularly, every block kind of had a unique vibe to it, which is difficult to do. If every block felt the same, and every
Yeah.
block kind of had the same story arc, it would have been kind of generic and boring. But they all kind of had different story arcs and stuff. So I will give him credit for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's a hell of a tournament. Uh, listen, I got yelled at throughout the tournament by people. So like at the end of the day, there was a lot of great wrestling matches that I am going to remember, and that's what I
Mm,
watched this tournament for. Booking wise, crapshoot, but it's fine. Okay, it's fine because in the end, I think the tournament gave me what I look for in the 5-star, and it's because this roster is so incredible. Like that's how I always viewed it going into it. Is like no matter how I feel about current bookings of this company and so on, the wrestlers are going to overcome. Now, as we go through this, we are going to kind of talk about some people that obviously maybe surprised, some that
mm,
I think really let us down in terms of
hmm
performances.
hmm
And then, of course, I could just put my Utani in S tier by herself now, and we could all just move on. But we'll do this in alphabetical order to make this easy. But like, that's the one thing I'll say about this tournament, just right off the bat. Mayu had the best tournament run I've probably ever seen. Like every single match, besides the Tomoka Inaba match, was great because the
Yeah,
Inaba
and
match was
even that
quick.
was pretty good for the timing. Like
Exactly.
that
Like
wasn't a
that match
bad match.
it wasn't allowed to be great, essentially,
Yeah,
because of the
yeah.
purpose of what they were telling with the story of that night. So
Mm,
I don't really blame them because the action, like you said, was good from what we saw. Um, but overall, I mean, it's the Stardom roster. It's an incredible roster that goes out there, puts on a show, and ultimately we'll talk about kind of how we feel about certain results and standings along the way. So don't want to spoil that too much. Let's get going. We're starting, of course, with AEW's own Anna J. The
not
expectations, I think,
intentional, but it's not our fault that her name starts with an A and an N.
the expectations for Anna J coming to this tournament obviously were not high.
Mm,
If you are an AEW fan, you were hopeful she's coming over to learn and improve. If you're a Stardom fan, you're kind of just hoping for the same because
mm,
ultimately, you know, I've watched a lot of Anna J matches through the years just by default. She has been very stagnant in her growth, but this tournament showed signs of hope for her.
mm, mm.
And ultimately, when I walked away from this tournament, I said, just let her be here for another couple months. That was my main takeaway, because 6 tournament matches isn't enough. But I thought her match with Xena was a solid standout for her. Obviously, she had the big opening night win over Sariano. And in terms of my expectations, I do think she exceeded them. Now, they were very low, but she did exceed them, and that I do give her credit. She wasn't, again, a blowaway competitor, but in what I thought was the second most consistent block of the tournament, I think she held her own for the most part.
Yeah, they definitely put her in a pretty favorable block, especially in hindsight.
Mhm.
Like Blue Stars A was the best performing block outside of Red Stars B, and they did her a lot of favors with the opponents they gave her against, and it was a nice variety. The one thing I will say that was disappointing, and this isn't a knock on her performance, but they gave her all the best opponents at the start.
Yes.
So we didn't
Yes.
get a chance to get one really strong goodbye match to send her off on.
Mhm.
They gave her
Yeah.
all the good opponents at the start, and then it was kind of it tapered off at the end. So we didn't get a chance to sort of really hit home. This is how far she's improved over the course of the 3 weeks. And because we didn't get any tag matches in the aftermath, and there was no like post sort of tournament run for her, it
Mhm.
did kind of fizzle out. All the excitement came at the start, and then it's just kind of, oh yeah, and now she's just kind of gone because she
Yeah.
kind of got eliminated from the tournament relatively early on from that block,
Yeah.
and it just kind of petered out in terms of excitement. I thought she did fine. There was obviously a lot of apprehension and kind of nervous energy surrounding what to expect. They definitely looked after her, at least until Xena got in the ring and was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not protecting you. I'm giving you the real Stardom experience," and it was only fitting the fellow foreigner kind of did that for her.
Mhm.
But in full credit to Anna Jay, like Xena dished it out and she was prepared for it, and it
Yeah.
almost felt like that's what she wanted. Like,
Yeah.
Shuri was kind of being nice to her, Sarah Inu was kind of being nice to her, and felt like that's what she wanted was Xena to kind of dish it out. So I was I'm not going to say I was impressed by Anna Jay, but I
Sure.
wasn't disappointed by Anna Jay either.
Mhm.
And I think that was the general vibe from it. But I
Yeah.
do agree, like we needed a 3 month tour from her.
Yeah.
And if we're going to get more of these excursions or AEW kind of appearances from wrestlers, especially surrounding tournaments, don't just have them appear for the 5-star Grand Prix, especially learners. Like
Mhm.
it's one thing if Jamie Hayter comes over or something,
Right.
but if we're sending people over to learn in Stardom, don't just send them over for 6 singles matches. Give them the tag matches because you look at someone like Mariah May, they learnt through the tag matches and through months and months
Of
of the
course.
experience.
Yeah.
Anna Jay, she'll go back to AEW, and she's learned, but like you don't get as much out of it only doing a few singles matches and an average match length of what 8 minutes or something.
Yeah, it wasn't
But
long.
yeah, she held her own. She can go back to America being happy with her performance. On the tier rankings, I guess you'd probably say C. It
Yeah.
was a amicable performance, but nothing to really stand out in the
Listen,
long
the
run.
credit I give her is going into it, I expected the bottom tier. Okay. Like, just
Mm,
plain and
mm,
simple. That was my expectation. But to me, she had the best match of her career against
yes.
Cena. Like, from what I've seen, that is easily the best match of her career. And I think if you're walking away from this tournament with that, that is a win for her.
Mm,
I think what benefited like someone like Mariah May is her run in Stardom ended with the 5-star. I think
yeah.
having Anna Jay have come 2 months earlier and end with the 5-star would have been a very smart method. And I would
Mm,
like to see them do that. I know like the surprise of the 5-star announcement's always kind of the point, but I think it's just better to do that. Announce the blocks earlier if you want to like hide the surprise
mm.
type thing. I think that could benefit her. So I think C is a good spot for her. Our next wrestler here.
Or even have her do the 5-star Grand Prix and end on the Goddess of Stardom tag league. Because they're
Sure.
close enough together, you can do a couple of month tour and you still get some tournament experience and just get that
Yeah.
little period in between.
Our next wrestler is Azumi, of course, our first Red Stars B performer. Red Stars B obviously walked away with the tournament each and
Mm,
every show. It was 1, 2, 3 great matches from pretty much everyone in that tournament. I think in that block. I think everyone in that block had great showings along the way, and I think
Mhm.
Azumi had a very strong showing. In terms of one, I think the benefit for her was making it out of the block. I think that was probably the most important thing. Once Tam was eliminated, it's like you looked at the rest of the field. It's like give Azumi the shot, right? Give her the
Mm.
chance to get out and show out. And that's what she did. I mean, I look at that night in Shinjuku Face. She was arguably the MVP of the entire night just for her two match. Well, the Tomoe battle was, a few performances, but then you have the main event with Micah, which is just such a great match. Obviously,
Mm.
she started her tournament big. She had the incredible match with Mayu as well. That's one of the standouts of the entire tournament. So obviously I'm looking high for someone like Azumi, who not only made it far and I think hit expectations, but delivered pretty much in every way you want her to, and made the strides that I think we all want to see Azumi make.
Yeah, like she's obviously a veteran when it comes to these 5-star Grand Prix. You know what to expect, and not that you need really necessarily need to take the awards into account when it comes to the Stardom 5-star Grand Prix awards that they dish out afterwards, because she wins the awards every year, and yeah, it kind of you, Starlight Kid, Azumi, they always win an award
Yeah.
when it comes to these things, but she legitimately deserves some kind of award at the end of it because what she was doing night in night out, she was one of those wrestlers who had the scary 3 matches in 3 nights run at the start,
Mhm.
when Red Stars had that 3 night stretch to start with, and
Yeah.
she had 3 difficult matches because she had Momo Watanabe in night 1. She had the draw and I think a tournament draw as well, just to kick things off. And obviously Azumi is kind of in the perfect situation to handle that at her age and her athletic capabilities, but it's still asking an awful lot. And that was one of the things that I was scared about when you were looking at the schedule to begin with. But she was just kind of able to handle that with such skill and grace. And then she goes on to have this phenomenal tournament. She's busting out top rope Canadian destroyers. She's doing butterfly destroyers, but it's not just the ridiculous, like, high spot stuff that she's doing, but she's nailing everything else perfectly. And it felt like it was going to be her tournament, not to win, but
Mhm.
it was a standout performance for her, and it
Yeah.
felt like her name was constantly in discussion, which is
Yeah.
what you want when you've got 28 wrestlers across 4 blocks. You want to constantly have your name in talks and to feel relevant, and that's difficult to do, but she made herself feel important in this tournament, and that's a credit to how good she was and also to the way she was booked.
I think in terms of tiers, I instantly go to A for
Mhm.
her. Not gonna lie, there's probably just gonna be one person S. Like I'm not just gonna be honest, like because or I'm making another tier just because of how far apart one person was from the rest of the field in terms of performance and points and whatnot. But Azami's the one that was the first to pin Mayu Utani as well. That's a big accolade. Mayu Utani had been undefeated in singles action on the year before that match. And ultimately for her, I think for me, she wasn't obviously the best in the block. And
Mm.
maybe another fellow Neo Genesis member stood out just a little bit more for me. Not in the block itself overall.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think like that I have to think about that as we go along. It's like who
Mm.
was better than Azumi in this tournament? So I
Yeah.
feel like A is like she's gonna be the precedent for the best stars, right? The
Yes.
not the group, the wrestlers. Like I think
Yeah.
we set her at A, and then you kind of judge from there.
She's a fairly high A tier. To
Yes.
me, there's probably 2, maybe 3 people that you can put in S tier. And for now, Azami's high A for me.
Then we had Hanan, Blue Stars B. Blue Stars B was a disappointment.
Mhm.
I don't have to say it. And Hanan was unfortunately among those disappointments. I think I don't necessarily fully blame her. It was just how that block went. Um, But in terms of success, she was one of the 2 to get out of the block. She had pinned Saya Kamatani, who ultimately was a finalist. So we have to include the success aspect of this as well.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think she had the standout match that I was hoping for. Like her
Mm,
Cinderella was so great. The 5-star was just not nearly that feeling, right? Um and I don't, coming into this tournament, she felt like she had got pinned every match anyways. So like there was no
mm,
momentum for her, and it was just kind of like that block, as we'll go through here, is not easy to judge because
mm.
there was just a lot of disappointment. Um, but in the end, we have to include the success in the tournament itself along with the performances. I look at her matches, like what's her standout match? Probably one of the Saya Kamatani ones. The Suzu ones were a letdown for me. And we'll talk about Suzu in depth, of course, but
Mm.
I can't put her in D because there's just some people that were like, oof. But at the
Yeah.
same time, for my expectations for Hana, and obviously I'm such a big fan of hers, I don't think she reached that. And again, part of that's the block. Had we switched her and Azumi, this might be a different conversation. But you know,
I think Hanan's at the point where she's not quite at the level where she can force great matches out of
mhm,
wrestlers. Someone like Azumine, we've talked about in the past on other podcasts. She will like almost demand a certain caliber out
yes,
of wrestlers, and if they don't follow it, it doesn't
yeah,
create great matches. But you can see she's demanding it out of someone. Hanan's not quite at that level.
yeah. It
That's
feels
not
like the
necessarily
switch
her
would have
fault.
been a very good thing for the overall tournament, honestly, between those two. Like just
Yeah.
for like Azumi probably would have got the best out of that block, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm happy. Don't get me
And
wrong. I'm happy she was in Red Stars B.
but also Blue Star Block as a whole kind of trended exponentially as the tournament went on.
It did.
That was in a really dire spot for the first week, and then everyone in that block all kind of pulled their head in and got better as the tournament went on. And Hanan benefited from being one of the couple that advanced.
Yeah.
Her final match against Sai Kamatani was one of the better matches, and then her quarterfinal match against Suzu was far better than her first match against
Oh yeah.
Suzu, and then her semi-final match, where she ultimately lost, was better than the block match. So she benefited from getting those couple of extra
Mhm.
matches, which definitely to me boosted her overall resume from the tournament. It was disappointing just because we've seen how good she's been over the past year, and even if she hasn't necessarily gotten the results through the middle part of 2024, um, we know how good she can be. And that's kind of
Mhm.
she was invisible more than you would have hoped, because this felt like a really good chance to establish just that she is at that upper echelon, because we've seen her in the Cinderella, we've seen her against Sarah Inu, and this felt like the chance to remind everyone
Yeah.
this is 2024 Hana. The fact that she didn't is disappointing. I would say she's C tier,
Yeah.
and that's, I don't think it's being too harsh. I would say
I
it's a
don't
high
either.
C tier just because the end of the tournament got really good. Um, so I would put her over Anna J,
Yeah.
but it could have been a lot worse if she didn't advance.
Yeah. You get no fight out of me on that one. That's where I
Mm,
instantly felt just seeing her and knowing my expectations for her. Obviously, she's still a very young wrestler, so it's like
yeah.
again, you don't expect her to go out there and steal the show every night. And her and Osby are very different. But at the same time, it's kind of part of the block she was in. Like I said, had
Mm,
she been in Blue Stars A or Red Stars B, we're probably having a very different conversation right now.
yeah.
So
We can't rate based on
no,
hypotheticals.
no, we cannot. No, we cannot. If everyone was in Red Stars B, they would have done good. That's kind of what we're saying.
If I was in Red
Um,
Stars B, I would easily be getting a B tier.
Yeah, speaking of someone that I wish was in Red Stars B, we have Hazuki coming up here. Red Stars A, I thought was a real disappointment as a whole, just because of my overall expectations for like the likes of Natsupoi, Micah, Hazuki to really lead it forward. That being said, Hazuki, I feel like got the best out of almost everyone, and that's
Mm, mm,
that's kind of what she does, right? I think she arguably had Natsupoi's best match. Her and Micah absolutely killed it. Her and Yuna Mizumori was really, really good. You
Yeah.
know, so like she got the best out of the people you wanted her to get the best out of because that's
Mm,
what she
mm,
does. Obviously, she didn't advance. She came oh so close to advancing. Of course, they went to a draw on the final night, so she didn't get any extra kick. But at the same
mm,
time, I feel like she's the perfect baseline B tier for me because of that. I could go low A. I think low A
mm,
is obviously very much in the conversation. Is she either low A, high B?
mm.
It depends, you know, kind of where we go the rest of the way. Because she ultimately, for me, she was the best competitor in her block. So I almost feel
Yeah.
like I should lean low A just to
Mm.
also pay her that respect as well, based on what she dealt with along the way.
My initial thought was low A because, like you, she was for me the best performer in the
Yeah.
Red Stars A. And when I was initially thinking we were doing the talking about this, when we were sort of thinking about maybe doing block MVPs, I had her in that block MVP. So I was thinking, giving her the A thing, but it will like I could see her being knocked down to B tier by the
Mm-hmm.
end of it, depending on how
Yeah.
everything turns out. So
I'm
I
happy
could,
with
yeah,
low A for
I could
now.
go either. Yeah, yeah, it just depends how things pan out. I thought she had a tremendous tournament. Every time you see her wrestle, you kind of get reminded how popular she is, at the very least in certain arenas. Like it feels like every maybe third show, she'll just randomly be the most popular wrestler, at
Yeah.
least in terms of crowd response. Yeah,
Yeah.
she might not necessarily sell the most merchandise, but she'll just get like maybe half of the arena just going mental for her. And some of the things she'll do will just get the best reactions. And like you look at the opening night match against Minami, someone who the
Mhm.
Stardom crowd had no real connection with. And that match got a fantastic reaction. And look, Minami was fantastic. I became a big fan of what Minami was doing. We'll talk about her when she.
Minami's a big time U wrestler. I've
Yeah,
always
oh
thought
yeah,
that. Like, I've watched
yeah,
Minami for a couple of years now, and I was like, if Trent ever like locks in on Minami, he's gonna be a
yeah.
Minami fan.
And we'll talk about the reasons why. And I think there's definitely we can make the connections as to why on that.
I
But
mean,
a
look
big
at her
part of
picture.
a big part of why I think the crowd connected to that match is because of what Hazuki does.
Yeah,
She kind
yeah,
of forces the crowd to connect with what's going on.
yeah,
And yeah, she was arguably one of the most consistent wrestlers
yeah.
on any of the blocks because she just goes out there and she does what she does, and what she does is tremendous.
Mhm.
Yeah, nearly advanced through the block, just missed out. I thought she was just utterly fantastic, and that's why I lean towards bottom of
Yeah,
A. But look, there was a lot of wrestlers kind of on that similar baseline.
yeah.
She just maybe benefits from being the only one in her block that kind of fits
I think
that
so.
mold.
I think you're
But we'll
right
see.
because I think she was so easily better than everyone in her block
Yeah,
without bonus matches too. Right. So
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's I give her credit to that. And she was always to me one of the best COVID performers because she always made
Mm,
sure to get crowds into the match. And I know some people don't like the clapping but I always think that's why her matches are always so exciting because she
mm.
gets the most, and especially with some of these crowds. Listen, Stardom crowds, there is a problem with a lot of them. Not Shinjuku Face. We should run every show at Shinjuku Face. But other places, it's not always great. But Hazuki, like you said, is able to
Let
get
me
the
just
best.
replicate the average Stardom crowd. I'm
I
just
know.
yeah,
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 yeah.
taking the picture. Yep.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
will give I will always bring this up. Rigoku Sumo Hall, Secure Genesis. Who were they all chanting for? Hazuki. Just saying. Not Mercedes Monet, not Asmi. It was about Hazuki. So yeah, I actually like Loe a lot. I think if you're a block MVP, we'll talk about Blue Stars B. But if you're a block MVP, I think you definitely get the benefit of the doubt. You should be in that A. And with her, you consider the block itself and the performances she put on. I think she absolutely earn that spot. Next up, we talk about Kogama here, who obviously comes into these tournaments with a very specific role. Um,
Mm,
one of the worst booking decisions of this tournament was having her and Saki Kashima wrestle on the same night
yeah.
because they have the same type of matches
Mhm.
and they literally would do the same thing with them, like back to back half the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
and one of them would suffer from it because it's like,
Mm.
oh, it was great the first time, but now I'm watching it happen again, and it's like I don't love that. Now, I don't blame her for having to wrestle the same night as Saki Kashima, and she plays the spoiler role well in a block that I think overachieved as a whole. Um,
Mm.
Koguma's so funny because like she'll just like do the comedic stuff, do the tease the spoil, and then she'll drop you on your head. And it's like, what? Huh? What? Where did that come from? I don't think she had like this amazing tournament, but she again wasn't there to have an amazing tournament. I
Mm.
think she pretty much lived up to exactly what I expected from her.
Yeah, I really wish she'd been booked on a red block because you're
Yeah,
right. If you had, it's like booking two Yanos on the same
right.
night with the G1. It kind of makes sense in a way. Like, oh, you get the comedic people on one night, all the serious people on one night, so you get to pick your poison. But like, spread it out. You know, it's
Yeah.
another thing they were doing was booking on the red nights a lot of the hate matches back to back to back to back. So you're just getting overwhelmed
Oh,
with throwing people into
beginning of the
the
tournament
chair
was rough.
spots.
The beginning of the tournament was rough.
Instead of spreading it
Yeah,
out a little bit and sort of booking in waves, just you're getting tsunamis of a lot of this stuff.
it was 4 in a row at
But
one point.
Kogama's really good at sort of mixing things up, and her best matches was when you'd get sprinklings of comedic stuff, and then you'd
Yes.
get the serious stuff. And when she had the time to do it, she didn't always get the time. Like, although in saying that, my favorite Kogama match was the Miyu Amasaki thing,
Of course.
the Kuma and then the immediate pin. Like, you play that off really well, and I love that they've called back to that. Like
Yeah.
after the 5-star Grand Prix, Miyu Amasaki has post-traumatic Kuma disorder. Like, I'm glad they're continuing that story. That's actually quite good. I I do struggle with Koguma a bit because I think she's far more interesting as a tag wrestler.
Oh yeah.
Whenever she does do singles wrestling, it just never connects with me the same way. I lean towards high C grade because even the Starlight Kid match is probably the match people point to as her best block
Yeah.
match. Even that just didn't connect with me to the degree that I know it connected with other people. Like, people were talking that one up, and when I was watching, I'm like, it's good, it's not great. So,
Mm,
and she didn't really get a lot in the way of results. So ultimately, for me, I would go high C.
I'd have her below
I probably
Hana
wouldn't.
personally.
Yeah, I wouldn't put her above Hanan because ultimately Hanan, she uh, went, she trended upwards enough
Yeah.
that she did ultimately go above
Yeah. I
Koguma.
mean,
Not to say
so
Koguma did bad. She did
she
her
just
job.
played
She
a
did it
role.
well enough. But yeah,
Yeah. She showed up, punched in, punched out. Like I
yeah, yeah.
can't can't ask for much more. All right, now let's talk
I
about
like
Konami.
Koguma, but this isn't where I want to see her ultimately.
Let's talk about Konami. Oh boy, she's lucky Ruaka was in her block. That was the only way. Like she could not be worst performer in her block. Like this. Oh my god. I forget how many hate wrestlers we got to get through. Um,
Mm,
she was not one of the good ones for me. I thought Momo Watanabe was the overall like natural best, like in terms of consistency. But
yeah,
obviously, one of these
it's Momo
wrestlers,
Watanabe.
one of these wrestlers trended up a lot more as the time went on. Konami was
Mm,
not one of them. Uh I really did not enjoy Konami's tournament. Everything was predictable, right?
mm,
Like every time she's going to cheat was predictable. And she was one of the people that I looked at in Red Stars as you need to have a good tournament to make this block good. And
mm.
she didn't for me. Like, I don't even know what her standout match was. And I'm thinking here, like, it was just rough. Maybe Hazuki? Was it Hazuki? Was that the one
I
where
would
she
say
cheated and then they
so.
I think it was Suzuki. Yeah, because she cheated. She sprayed her. Yeah, yeah, it was that one.
Yeah.
But like, congrats. Who else? Like everyone's best match was Suzuki in that block. So I really didn't like her tournament. I thought it very much underdelivered for what I know Konami's capable of. Now
Mm.
again, she is entering back into the hate gimmick right before this, so I have to understand that. But she was one of the reasons I didn't love Red Stars A, unfortunately.
Mm. I I didn't. There was no Konami match I loved, and I'm not going to sit here and defend the style that they did. I didn't hate Konami's cheating as much as I think you did, because I don't mind the spray can
The
gimmick
spray can's
as much as
fine.
a lot of people.
It's just
Yeah,
it
and
happened 4 times in a row, like, not just her.
yeah,
I feel
well,
like she was
it's
always at the end of the hate run, so at the
yeah,
ultimately, I was like,
that definitely didn't help. And I do also feel like she did it for like the first 3 quarters of her run, and
yeah,
then she dropped it at the end.
yeah,
Instead of like again, splitting it up. Like if she did it for 4 out of 6 matches, instead of like
mhm,
doing two, stop for one kind of thing, it
sure.
was all four and then stop for two. That was, I guess, you trying to get it over, but it was one of those things where it's like maybe
Her and
should have
Ruaka was
booked it a
actually
little bit differently.
funny enough,
The,
like,
the
that
her
match
and Ruaka
actually
was
entertained me.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I like the gimmick with Micah rolling her up and then getting chased around Kirk and all. There was bits and
yeah,
pieces of her throughout the tournament that was quite entertaining, but
sure.
like across like full matches, there was a lot of like dragging moments, which was
Mhm,
kind of the run of the gimmick with Hate. Um, she was fine, but like fine in the 5 star Grand Prix from someone of Konami's caliber in Red Stars A is disappointing. Um, it's not enough to be the Dredge, which is the D block for me.
yeah.
Um, I would put her low C tier, which
I'm
is
putting
to me.
her behind Anna Jay. I just gotta set the tone, okay? In terms of
Yeah, I'm not
expectations,
going to argue that because I can understand it. But
there's
yeah,
other D
it,
tier people that were worse. So,
yeah,
like,
there's people that were worse for sure.
if I put
Her
all of hate
tournament
into
is more
D, I would get yelled at.
forgettable for me
So,
than Anna Jay's, which is probably ultimately why I would put her below. What am I going to remember in a year's time? Probably Anna Jay's more than Konami's,
yeah.
which
I remember Anna
is
Jay's
sad.
Xena match. I don't remember any, like, you watch me struggle to remember a Konami match live on this show. Next up is the, of course, 5 star Grand Prix winner, Micah. She went undefeated, so that probably
Mhm.
helps. Uh, that probably helps her cause.
It does help her win a tournament when she doesn't lose a match. Yes.
That being said, until the end, I think she again kind of
Mm.
she went up as time went on. Once that Hazuki match happened, I feel like Micah started to click. The problem for her is she switched her appearance. She just trying to change everything kind of out of nowhere. Obviously, coming off the um, World of Stardom title loss, and
Mm.
her winning this tournament, you would think, oh, good, she can come back and fight at Queendom. Nah. It's already happened by the time this episode's out. That's crazy to think about. Uh, wow.
Yeah, we're
All right.
recording this before, but yeah, it
Yeah.
has already happened.
So like,
Congrats, Tam.
if Micah won, oh no, just oh no, for so many reasons. We got to chill out with the flip flopping here. Anyways, Micah was a very interesting case for me because I don't think she had the strongest tournament. Because listen, I loved her final few title matches. I loved the
Mm.
Xena one. I thought the Inaba one kicked ass. And even the Tor one was pretty good, but you could forget most of it because of what happened. Um, and then she changed everything. I was like, I just started to really enjoy your work, and you do this to me? How dare you? How dare you become Micah Hayashishita? Like, what are we doing here? I had to make the joke once. Um, But by the end, she's having great matches. Like I said, she has a great match with Azuki, the great match with Azumi, the great match with Mayu, and then of course the final. Some people like the final, some people don't like the final. Either way, very strong run to close out. Whether
Mm.
you liked the final with Saya Kamatani or not, so that really benefits her. Along with she went undefeated and won the whole thing. Um, that being said, I will fight putting her in A.
You know, I wouldn't have her in the A tier, which
Right.
seems wild.
I feel like I won.
I would have
Okay.
her at the very top of B tier, just because, like, for someone who went undefeated throughout the whole tournament, I don't think she had as strong a run as she should have.
Sure.
Um, like, it's funny when I was and do a little bit of self plug. When I was doing my top matches from the 5 star Grand Prix, which is available to read on Rizora, um, I thought I should have her matches higher up on the list than I did, and I ended up having 2 matches on her on the list, and I was debating whether to have the final, and that ended up falling just outside the top 10 for me. But it was like, she went undefeated. She won the whole thing. Why is there not more of her matches on the
Yeah.
top 10? Spoiler alert, because there's at least one wrestler on here who dominated the list, and it wasn't
Yeah.
Micah. But like she had a good run, but she felt a little bit more just kind of inevitable than it was like
Mhm.
just like it wasn't a Shuri run where like Shuri was dominating proceedings and it felt just like by sheer force of her incredible run, it just kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
she's being booked to be dominant rather being dominant in the ring.
Yeah.
She had a good performance, but a little bit disappointing. And it was funny because like when she was champion, it felt like she was desperate to be treated as legitimate by management.
Mhm.
And she's putting on great performances, but she just wasn't being given a chance by management. And then she lost the belt, and then management was treating her like this undefeatable beast, and she was like, "Oh, now I'm being treated this way," and she wasn't necessarily wasn't delivering those performances. It took a while for her to catch up with the booking. So
Yeah.
hopefully, like 2 and 2 will catch up, and now like I do trust her in main event
Mhm.
matches because she does deliver them.
Yeah.
Um, it was just yeah, a little bit underwhelming, but that's also because, like, kind of as we were talking with Hanan, we know how good she can be. You
Yeah.
know, her versus Natsupoi seemed to be very divisive. A lot of people did like that match. A lot of people didn't like that match. I kind of fell in the middle. It was good,
Yeah.
but not as
Me
good as
too.
it could have been. Um, but yeah, like
Very
it was a
disappointing
good
for what I
performance.
know they can do, to be fair.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we'll talk about Natsupoi.
Mm.
Mr. UWF over here. Um
Yeah, Micah didn't have a bad run. Like top of
Yeah.
B tier is not a bad performance, but it's just for someone who went undefeated one whole tournament, and for her caliber, you would have thought maybe should have been an A tier minimum.
Yeah.
Some people probably would have her there, but it's just not quite.
She's had better tournaments while being a less skilled wrestler
Yes,
in the past. So like
just through sheer force of will, which is
you're
something
right.
Micah's very good at.
Yeah, so that's why I think like I don't think she's great in the dominant unbeatable role. Like that just doesn't feel like Micah for me. And when I say that is
Yeah,
like the beauty of her
it's only
past
'cause she's so
tournaments.
strong.
Yeah, I know, but like the beauty of her past tournaments is like she could beat anyone, but at the same time, she wasn't expected to beat everyone, right?
Mm,
So like when she went in there with Shuri and Utami, you like, okay, here we go. And that's when you got her best performances because win or lose, she's gonna go out there and show you what she's capable of. But listen, I think B's a fine spot for her, even though she won. It's just how it be. This was a weird year for this tournament.
yeah.
But let's talk about Trent's new favorite, Manami. Do the scream. Oh! Shouts out to
I'm
Sendai
not going to
Girls
try
Own.
and do the bend backwards. I'm going to
No,
tear
no, we don't have to do
something in the
that. We
back.
don't have to do that. But Manami, I was very excited to be in this tournament. I don't think necessarily she'll have like this amazing knockout top
Mm,
tier tournament, but I do think she left a mark. And as I said, previewing this tournament, she'd make fans along the way.
mhm,
And she made a fan along the way. So that's one. And I think she made many more. Manami is someone who I think is very special. I do. I think
mm,
Sendai doesn't build a lot of wrestlers, but the ones they do, they're pretty damn good. Okay. So like, and Manami at times showcased how good she could potentially be down the line. She's still a very young wrestler. I think
mm.
she's 19, or
She
19 or
is.
20. Like it's insane. But she carries herself well. She has a great theme song. If anyone actually gets to hear it, you can't hear it on most of the.
They accidentally played it once in
Yes,
Stardom. Like
it was
they forgot
awesome.
to mute it. Yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah,
And
no,
I
it's a
thought
great
maybe
theme
they'd
song.
secured the rights halfway through, and
Yeah.
then they hadn't.
I remember the first time I listened, like when they didn't have it, I was like, "You just took away half the fun." I was like, that's part of the sell. But I think Minami,
Mm,
for in terms of expectations, right? She's coming into this tournament. She's not going to win it. She's not going to qualify, but she's going to
mm,
gain experience and get better along the way. And I think she got stronger and stronger throughout. So I enjoyed her tournament. I think she had some good matches. I wish her and Raka didn't go for 15 minutes, but what are we gonna do? But I think she, she benefited from this in every which way.
Yeah, look, my mistake in sort of having seen Minami in the past was it mostly been tag matches with Anarchy. And like Manami is like a bubbly personality. She's got a lot to give, but anyone's gonna look fairly bland next to Ryo Mizunami. And that's the thing. I'd seen her come out and like she seemed just like a normal kind of up and
Yeah.
coming, youngster kind of finding her footing. And of course that's gonna be the case. But when I saw her come out with Stardom, it's like I'd watched her a couple of weeks ago in the tag title match with Sendai. And I'm like, what, is this the same person? Like, wait, where was she in Sendai
Yeah.
Girls? And yeah, through the course of this, seeing her in singles matches, getting a chance to properly showcase herself, it was like, okay, I get this. Like, I'm understanding why people have been talking about her and hyping her up a little bit. And you're right, she fits the Trent mold of
Uh-huh.
wrestler. This kind of underdog, ridiculously vibrant, Jungle Kiona cross with Chie Koshikawa kind of character,
Mm-hmm.
which, not in moveset style, but just in that kind of personality type.
Now she
So,
gets the crazy
yeah,
jumping knee. I don't think either of them are hitting the crazy jumping knee.
but you know who does? Himeka. So
That's
it's just
true.
kind of meshing together all
Yeah.
my favorite wrestlers that don't always win championships, although Chie Koshikawa is now a champion in Gato
Hey,
matches.
Minami was
What
champion at
is?
one point. She was tag champ.
Yeah, but we're talking about like
Yeah.
winning singles championships.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
None of my wrestlers typically do, but I have hope for Manami
Good, great
climbing the
tag
ranks.
team wrestlers.
Yes, I like my tag team wrestlers apparently. But yeah, Manami did a really good job in this tournament. I thought it's always going to be tough standing out, especially in Red Stars A, which have a lot of like big personalities and ultimately like didn't necessarily all deliver in the ring to the full extent that they may be capable of, but I thought they
Mm-hmm.
all gave Minami a lot of respect. It felt like when it was time for their match with her, even if they weren't delivering to their peak, they
Mm-hmm.
all felt like they wanted to give her a really good match.
Yeah.
Natsupoi didn't have her best tournament, but against Minami, that was a really good match. Kanami gave her a win, gave her a good match. Hazuki on that first night, fantastic. Maika, fantastic match. Even Ruaka, 15 minutes draw, that wasn't necessary, but they had the history. That was the first match that Minami ever had. And I thought, like, they didn't need to go 15 minutes, but they did their best given the circumstances. Like, this was a
Mm-hmm.
good showing for her. It's either top of C, bottom of B, depending on how you feel about someone at her level. Because she's one of my new sort of favorites. I'm going to let you pick because I'm naturally biased. But yeah, I was really impressed with her. I want to see more from her. I'm happily to watch Sendai for it, but I would like to see them bring her back into Stardom and give her a little bit more shine on this platform because ultimately I feel like she shone better in Stardom than she does Sendai Girls.
Well, thinking. Yeah, Minami's great, obviously. Just trying to think who am I gonna be putting in B, A, S mentally. Trying to even it out.
Oh, look, she's not in S. I'm not that big a fan.
No, I'm just saying overall. Like I'm just looking at the rest of the field.
Yeah.
Because like I think B, A, and S are gonna get really filled up here in a little bit. Like there's a lot of
I think
great to come, there's a
I
lot of
think C's going to
stinks.
get pretty full too.
Yeah, so that's what I'm balancing. I'm thinking for now, and I'm not really sure about this because you left it to me,
Mm.
but I think I'm going to put at the top of C for now, and
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to see
Yep,
where we are as we get along because I do think that
I'm cool with that.
she absolutely killed it. Next up, we're just going to put her in S. Mayu Utani.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
need to explain this, but we're gonna anyways because this is what we do on the show. We talk about Mayu Utani.
Mm.
The wrestler of the year conversation for me was pretty much over before the 5-star Grand Prix. It's like, all right, sorry, congratulations on running because at the beginning of the year, Mayu was running away with it, and then Sari just like joined, started doing Marigold. It's like, well, now it's not fair anymore. And then Mayu had the 5-star Grand Prix and said, I will catch you. Now, yes, Sari has a Dream Star Grand Prix, so it might get out of hand again. However, However, Mayu had such an incredible run that I think the conversation is now back there. Of course, for me, their best matches of the year were in the same match now. Tough to benefit, But anyways, I think the beauty of Mayu's tournament and really Mayu getting to be in a top spot in this tournament is that you just get to see her at her top level. She doesn't take nights off. She never takes nights off. And she, in many ways, paid for not taking nights off. Her body was in a lot of pain. And she said it a lot of the time. When she faced Inaba and was holding her neck, I was terrified, admittedly, because I was like, man, you do this too much to us. But if I was to do a top 10 like yourself, and I said this to you, almost every
We're
single
talking
match
about.
would be in that top 10 of hers. The Inaba match is probably the only one I'm not putting in the top 10, truthfully, because everything was just better than everyone else. It's just how it went. Her match with Natsupoi was the most Natsupoi match I feel like I saw in the tournament. Absolutely phenomenal. The match with Micah, I thought was the best match of that entire show. The match with Azumi, absolutely fantastic. The match with Saida was a absolute wonderful main event, right? Like the match with Tam to kick it all off. Like you get my point. Everything she did was just so much better. Like she ran away with MVP of the tournament. It was like halfway through, I was like, well, it's over. I don't like nothing else matters. No one's catching up. Like you needed to have a superhuman performance to reach Mayu Utani in this tournament, I think. That's why she is an S tier, because she is superhuman. She just was absolutely incredible. And in her final 5-star Grand Prix, that's official. She left it all out there one final time.
Yeah, sort of at a certain point in this tournament run, it became less about like is anyone going to catch her for tournament MVP? And it became a discussion of is this comparable to Shuri 2021?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's sort of what it came down to because like no one was really going to get close. Like obviously, Red Stars B was putting on tremendous performances, but it felt like for every good match everyone else was having, just like the Maya matches were just consistently that tier above. That
Yep.
even amongst that group, no one was really going to catch her. And then obviously once you got to the quarterfinals and the semi-final matches that she was also having, like it just put
Yep.
her on to another tier above everyone else. And all the other block people, they weren't having that caliber of matches. And
Mm-hmm.
really the only contender is that Shuri 2021 run to me.
Yeah.
And it's different circumstances, 2 blocks versus 4. So I'd say Shuri probably had arguably maybe a more consistently high caliber of opponents, arguably. She
I
had
think she
20
had an
minutes versus
advantage
15
for
minutes.
sure. I think
Yeah,
Shuri
and
definitely had an
obviously she had
advantage.
maybe probably she had the final versus the quarters and semis, so it's kind of even there maybe. But like that's the sort of the kind of rarefied air we're talking about with this tournament run that Mai had. Like for a couple of years there, the Shuri run was untouchable. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was the pinnacle. And here we are a couple of years later. It's like, yeah, well, it's reasonable to say Maya's run
Yeah.
is at the very least you can have it in the same discussion. I think.
Yeah.
Um,
If this was all
but
time runs, I
yeah,
think they're in the same tier.
yeah. There's not many other runs in the 5-star Grand Prix that I can really think of that's comparable.
No.
Especially in terms of consistency.
Yeah.
The Inaba match is the only match I can think of that was disappointing, and again, that's just because of the time. It wasn't a bad match; it
Yeah.
was just a short match. And honestly, I think as much as anything, it was just because Maya was probably banged up from the Maysara match because she took a particularly nasty suplex that I
Yeah.
remember she landed on her neck, and I, I distinctly remember thinking, "Oh, if she might nearly need to take a match off after that
Yeah.
landing." Um, but trooper that she is, she not only finished that match, but she finished the Inaba match. Went on to have the Natsupoi match, which for me was match of the tournament, and then had an incredible match with Micah. So, just to give you an idea, if we're talking about matches of the tournament, for
Yeah.
me, she had the number 1 match, the number 3 match, then she went on to have the number 5 match, and then she had the number 8, the number 9 match. And then realistically, she also probably had the number 11 and 12 match, but I wasn't officially counting those. So that's the
Yeah.
kind of run we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're biased. We both count Moira Tony as our favorite wrestlers, not only current but all time. But this isn't just a bias situation here.
Yeah, no, this tournament for her, and I said this to someone recently. Wrestling for me as a whole lately is not nearly as fun because my two favorite wrestlers in the world are the best wrestlers in the world, right? Like easily, like they are the wrestlers of the year for me. So unless they're wrestling, I'm like, whatever. Like this weekend, you know, Saori had 2 tournament matches, but Mayu's in a tag, and it's like, I don't really like. Yeah, not the point. Hazuki's cool. Tam and Micah's the biggest match they have, and they're doing it on a random pay per view. Yeah, that's fine, but like, whatever, because that's how great her tournament was. Like, it, we've this year has been a very interesting year for Mayu. Obviously, it got heightened because of the movie, so they gave her some big defenses, and then once the movie calmed down, she just did nothing, like for 3 months there, and then like 5-star Grand Prix, and obviously they want her to put over Micah in the end. That, if anyone didn't figure that out, that was the goal of having her be strong. And she just absolutely killed it. It's like, this is what my, and then she has the tag team match at Cerism 2 days later, which is unbelievable that she had all this in a month span. But my point remains, absolutely unbelievable tournament, one of the best runs I've ever seen in a tournament. And like Shuri might still have the edge overall just because the difference of the tournament and the way it was. And she won in the end. She won with what I think is the best 5-star Grand Prix match ever. So like, that gives her a benefit. But the fact, like you said, we're having this conversation says everything you need to know. And yes, Mayu did have the match of the tournament for me as well with Natsupoi. So just absolutely unbelievable. Shinjuku face, I love you forever. But we will move on. We will talk about everyone else now. We got that out of the way. I know everyone was waiting.
All downhill from here.
I just want everyone to know no one else is going in the S tier, and I will not let Trent do it. I will not let it happen. He might be able to get 1 or 2, but it'll be a conversation when we get there. Next up, we have May Sarah, more Red Stars B, which is very fun. I haven't had to go. You have a lot of painful people towards the end. I appreciate that. May Sarah.
Fault they're named that way.
I know. No, I'm not talking about Yuna or Xena or Tomoka either. Those 3 did really well. You figure it out. But May Sarah, Red Stars B, she was great. They had great matches. Had to go to a million draws, the poor girl. She went to so many draws early. She was undefeated for most of the tournament until Mayu beat her. She was just rolling, and I was like, what is happening? Like, when did the high-speed champion become the most protected wrestler in the company? While the world champion just loses at all times. The high-speed champion choked out the current World of Stardom champion, by the way. Don't forget that, which popped me. And it's funny because I am going to talk about Tam's tournament. I did like her tournament a lot in terms of wrestling. That being said, I thought May Sarah obviously had a great run. She had standout matches. Like everyone else in Red Stars B. Red Stars B is just a jumble in my head because like, oh, they all had great matches with each other, and then Mayu. Like, it's like her, Azumi, and Tomoka, I do love. So when they did the play-ins, I was like, but I kind of loved the Tomoe battle. I thought that was a great end for those two because I was like watching Inaba and May. I'm like, I like that they get a little feather in the cap here. Like, we were that close. And I think May Sarah, for a lot of people that I've talked to, if they weren't into her before as a high-speed wrestler or as her beyond tag team wrestling, because obviously Crazy Star has been fantastic, I think she kind of stood out a lot more here as a singles competitor. And it's funny because I talked to a lot of people beforehand. They're like, I'm worried about, what she might do because, again, her style is very different. You're either going to like it or you're not. But I think she did a really good job to, 1, set herself apart as a high-speed wrestler, and 2, kind of set herself apart from Crazy Star. And if we're talking about who had the better tournament between Crazy Star, she ran away with it. So, I'm gonna be very sad when we talk about Suzu, but that's for later. How did you like May Sarah's tournament?
I thought she had a very good tournament. Look, you could just kind of copy and paste that statement for everyone in Blue Stars B block. It's kind of
Red
ridiculous.
Stars B, Red Stars B, not Blue Stars.
Oh, sorry,
Oh
sorry,
God,
Red
you
Stars
can't make
B.
that mistake.
Everyone in Red Stars B
Yeah.
just kind of, by default had just a fantastic tournament. I I'm one of those people that struggles a little bit with May Sarah when it comes to singles performances. That she just hasn't really won me over. Full stop. Thought she did a good job in this tournament. I'm still not fully sold on her, and I don't know why. I just can't put my finger on what it
Interesting.
is about her. It's like it's not she's not putting on bad performances. It's just when she wrestles, it just I'm not sitting there fully engaged like I should be. Um, and I can't even say, oh well, she's doing this wrong, or it's like this is sloppy, or the technique's not right there. It just doesn't fully engage me like it does others, and it's more apparent, I think, in the high speed matches where it's maybe just
Hmm.
not winning me over. In the 5 Star Grand Prix, like it's good wrestling, and all that. Um, so it's difficult for me to rank. Um, 'Cause it just ultimately she doesn't click with me in singles matches like other wrestlers do. So for me, it's probably a high B, low A, and I sort of need to leave it in your hands because
Hmm.
I can't fairly judge her.
Sure. I mean, I was putting her over Micah, but not higher. So in
Yeah,
my like
yeah,
my mind,
mm,
I was putting her in B,
yeah,
because I think that block it's either A or B or of course Maya.
mm,
So it's
mm,
like I'm not gonna go very low. I understand like especially your high speed matches, unless it's the Hazuki one, like title matches specifically.
yeah,
I don't think those have necessarily stood out, but I thought this tournament allowed her to be more just herself. And obviously, I think she's a
mhm,
great tag wrestler. And I'm a big fan of Mace
yeah,
Sarah, always have been. Um, but I can understand, especially with all high speed wrestlers. I think a lot of people find that like a lot of people have been that way with Azumi for a long time,
mhm,
and I never understood it. But
mm,
I don't fight that. Like there's
mm.
reasons certain wrestlers don't connect because of their high speed style, and I think that's just if unless you love high speed wrestling and not necessarily
That's
just
the
like the
weird thing
way.
because Azumi connects with me. It's just May Sarah for whatever
Well, that's
reason just hasn't
yeah.
been able to connect.
I know people
Um,
that don't like
yeah,
Azumi as much as May Sarah. So it's like
mm, mm,
it's a weird. I don't get it either way.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
useless in this
yeah,
situation. I
mm,
love them both, but
yeah.
it is a thing that I've noticed like just reading other people's comments. So it's not
Mm.
just a you thing. But
Yeah, I
I
I think she works a lot better in tag matches,
I
which
think
is
she's a
why Crazy
fantastic
Star
tag
works so
wrestler.
well for
Yeah,
me. But yeah, when it comes like even with the 5 Star Grand Prix, like she was having objectively, I can say she was having good matches. I'm not watching go, oh, that was a shallow and pedantic match. It just
yeah,
failed to deliver on X, Y, and Z. It's just I was watching, go, yeah, it was fine. Um, that's So, but I know it was a personal opinion, not a objective rating of the
yeah.
match. But I'm
Uh,
cool with to go with it in the high B because that's kind of where it felt fair.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
wasn't gonna go. I wasn't gonna go A. I think A is
mm.
just like the top, unless someone just exceeded expectations, and I know who we're gonna talk about there from there. Then we have Miyu Amasaki, the real leader of Neo Genesis. That has been a joke I made one time, and people have run with it, and I appreciate it. I love Miyu Amasaki. I think she's awesome. I do. She had a really weird tournament though. Her first two
Mm.
matches were like 5 seconds long. Like they were like five. She was like, I know, you know, I know Peps was like counting the times for everyone, and Miyu Amasaki was at the bottom the entire time. Like she
Yeah.
just never got long matches, which I didn't love. Like I wanted her to have long matches. She ultimately in all her matches she wrestled 43 minutes and 33 seconds. She averaged 7 minutes and 16 seconds, which was the third least. Only Rana
Mm.
Yagami and Saki Kashima wrestled shorter.
I'm sure you would expect them to be at the bottom.
Right. So like I don't think she ever had a full chance to stand out. And it's just the way they booked her. Now, that being
Mm.
said, her match with Xena on the opening night, loved it. That was great. The upset, that was awesome. Absolutely loved that. I really liked the Starlight Kid match. I thought it was the perfect follow up to their previous match.
Mm.
But at the same time, I don't think they gave her the full chance to. And I like her and Shuri as well because, again, playing off from their match way back again.
Yeah.
But like, it was a weird way to book her tournament, especially because of, I think she went in with momentum, really, just based on this year
Yeah.
and her overall growth. I was hoping we could get more of that, and I just don't think they gave her the full opportunities to succeed, except for the few matches where she got time.
Neo Genesis is kind of the perfect situation for her.
Hmm.
But it almost feels like they've gone, okay, this is the perfect setting for you, but we're not going to rush things, which in a way makes sense because, like,
Sure.
yeah, Azumi, Starlight Kid are kind of the two that are going to immediately jump out when it comes to Neo Genesis, and then you'd be looking at Starlight Kid, Suzu Suzuki and May Sarah kind of going to be the next ones to kind of
Yeah.
jump out from that. So in a way, it kind of makes sense to slow burn Miyu Amasaki rather than kind of throw her straight into the fire with the 5-star Grand Prix and giving her big situations. Kind of let her just naturally grow in the ring when it comes to Neo Genesis. But
Hmm.
it definitely did kind of feel like, oh, she's just there. Yeah,
Yeah.
she gets the chance to change her look and I don't want to say finally gain her personality when it comes to her, just her presentation stuff. But it feels like she went from just being a stunned mullet when it comes to Queen's Quest, but instantly with Neo Genesis, she feels so much more comfortable in herself. And it's
Yeah.
crazy how much more vibrant she seems, and not just because of the haircut, but just in general, she seems so much more confident in herself.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the matches, like a couple of chances to kind of do more, but definitely didn't really showcase what had definitely been an improved in-ring performance in general this year from her.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's C. She didn't
Yeah.
do anything bad outside of a pretty miserable Anna Jay match, but that was to be expected because she's not experienced enough to deliver that kind of match, and neither is
Sure.
Anna Jay.
Yeah.
But so I'm not going to hold that against either of them. So it's somewhere in C, probably above Anna Jay, but below Koguma.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think they gave her more to get higher, right?
Yeah.
Um, but like I said, I liked her match with Starlight Kid. I can't wait to get to
Mm.
Starlight Kid because the first tier list we ever did for this was very mean on Starlight Kid. Now I get to celebrate her.
It was justified.
It was. Let's talk about Momo Watanabe, the arguably the savior of hate, in this tournament from beginning to end. Um, she lost a lot.
Mm.
she dropped the first four.
And here we were theorizing on maybe this is a way of getting out of fate. Some storyline development here.
Yeah, I got hope. I had,
Nope.
I had,
Booking a
I had,
match.
I had hope for no good reason. Um, I had hope,
It
not
makes
hate.
sense logistically. Like I understand, like they were
Yeah,
kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place there, and the only other option was to book her like Mina and just not book her.
yeah, and that's not good at all. So don't do that.
Mm. Yeah.
But I really liked Momo's tournament. Again, it's Red Stars B. Like I don't know what
Mm.
else I need to say. She had great matches or really good matches. Really liked her Mayu match because it hit me like
Like a
what if
plastic bat.
no, it just kind of hit me like obviously they're one of my favorite connections in the ring that I've
Mm.
watched, and I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen over the next couple months. This could have been it. So it got a little emotional for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I like when Momo gets to wrestle. I know, what a crazy
Mm.
idea. Let Momo wrestle. I think the hate personality didn't overtake her matches. It benefits her. It doesn't benefit
Mm.
pretty
Mm.
much everyone else, but she works it in very well.
Yeah.
It's why I just wish they just let her be leader because I feel like she'd just be so much better at it because
Mm.
she just does it really well. And in Red Stars B, like you said, she wasn't gonna be allowed to have bad matches. Her and Azumi on the opening night, great time, obviously.
Yeah.
What did you expect? And I think she wrestled like her and Inaba was fun. Um, her and Ida was fun.
It was an underrated match. I think people
Yeah,
wrote that off because by the time it happened, neither of them had a chance to advance.
Yeah.
But that, like, I think people should go back and rewatch that because for a match with zero stakes, that was better than it had any right to be. Because they've always had good chemistry, even when Ida had like was still very much finding her way.
Hmm.
Momo always got the best out of her,
That's the story of Saida's
which is not a
tournament,
shock
by the
because
way.
Momo gets the best out of like everyone. But
Yeah, she's really good at that.
mm.
So for me, it's like high B low A.
Shocker, she's always kind of connected to Hazuki. It's always kind of in that
Yeah,
same spot. It's
yeah.
yeah.
Tao B, baby. I feel like she gets a benefit from me, by the way, because she made all the other hate wrestlers look pretty bad. Because like, oh, she can do this. Everyone else could have done it. Well, Sai Kamatani is a different case. We will talk about her, but I just really
Yeah,
enjoyed what she did.
I'm torn. Like I'm almost tempted to go high B because
Yeah.
unlike Hazuki, she wasn't best in her block.
Yes. Eh, eh. There we go. Yeah, no, I think that's kind of the perfect spot for her.
Mm.
And I think Hazuki gets the advantage just for especially the way she closed it out. Momo,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I think what hurt Momo, she was out of it so quick. It felt like,
Yeah.
so like those last few matches again, they weren't noticed as well, but the Saida one was really good. So
Mm.
let's talk about Natsupoi. I don't know, like, is it being best friends with the best wrestler of the year? Like, does that hurt her? Like, does she like have an emotional moment where she's like, "Oh, I need to change things up so I can like stand out more"? Because Natsupoi, the beauty of your style is you just naturally stand out. Like when you won Wonder of Stardom title, I was like, "Here we go," and then you started doing these arm bars and more arm bars and limb targeting, and I was like, "What? What is happening? Why are you doing this?" But she did have the match in the tournament, so that's big. That's big plus. She had a great match with Hazuki, and funny thing about that match of the tournament, she wrestled like Natsupoi. That's all I needed her to do. The funny thing about Natsupoi is I put her in the same. For me, she's in the same bag as like Hazuki. Like you're just gonna bring the best out of your opponent. Her and Micah let me down so much that I was like, what? Why? What are we doing here? And then, like, we kind of scattered along after that. And then, it just at the end, it was like, boom, boom, there's
Mm-hmm.
Natsupoi type thing.
Yeah.
Because I watched the Hazuki match personally. I was like, well, they're saving a lot for their title match. That's inevitably happening. And then, like I said, match of the tournament, Mayu. So big bonus there. It was a really weird tournament for her. One of my friends joked, shout out to Dylan, he joked that it's the curse of the Wonder belt. Like people just take hits in the tournament when they have that belt the past couple of years. I was like, you're not wrong, and I'm blaming you for
Mm.
this now. Because he said it before the tournament. He said it before, and I was like, why? Why would you put that into the air? But she's still Natsupoi, and she still had two great matches. So, especially like I said, match of the tournament for both you and me.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that helps
Mm.
her a lot.
Yeah, it definitely was a underwhelming tournament by her standards. But it doesn't also help that like it was an underwhelming tournament for Red Stars A across the board. So
Mm-hmm.
it can't be purely placed on her.
No,
Yes, she decided to become an MMA expert and like that wasn't just a 5-star Grand Prix thing. Like she's showing that like this is something she's focusing on in general. It'll be interesting to see how deep into 2024 she goes with this and like obviously we're recording this. Those listening to this or slash watching this on YouTube will be in the comments, be able to tell us like how that Hazuki match went. Did she, rip the arm off Hazuki during that match and wear it around her shoulder like a victory wreath? But she had her moments. Like the Micah match wasn't as good as it could have been. It was still a decent match. Like it wasn't a horrific match.
it hurt
Her
my
match with
feelings. That's the
Manami,
problem.
yeah, we just had like expectations at like
Yeah,
a level, and it was a B level, so it
that
crosses
and
up.
the Suzu Hanan match on the same night really
Yeah,
hurt my spirit.
But like the Minami match was really good, and that felt like kind of what we were hoping for from Natsupoi
Mhm.
across the board. And then Hazuki was a really good match, and the Maya match. So it could have been worse from her, but just
Sure.
it was such a big shift from her. Like it wasn't just her maybe not delivering to the level we wanted. It
Yeah.
was a conscious shift from her, which is probably why it was such a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, and a shift that we didn't know about until it just happened, and then she talked about it
Yeah.
after, so I was like,
If
"What?"
we got like daily
Yeah,
footage from her in like MMA gear doing
right, like,
training,
set the
or
stage for us next time, boy, like, what are you doing?
if she'd come
Um,
out in MMA gear with braids and a mouthpiece for her first match with Micah, it would have been a different beast. I guess we're probably talking low B, high C, and I guess it depends how much you weight those last couple of matches.
and that last match was the match of the tournament, so I weighted
Yeah,
heavily, like,
yeah,
she
yeah,
went out with a bang, like, she got
yes.
eliminated in that match, hot crowd, so, like, I don't know, I'd put her over Micah.
Nah, it's
I tried.
if
There's a
she's at
limit.
B, she's at the bottom of B.
All right. No, I think that's fair actually. Just like overall tournament and my
Yeah,
expectations for her. Because Micah was at least way more steady, I think,
yeah.
in terms,
Micah had a more consistent tournament.
even if I didn't love that either. Looking at you, final. Rana Yagami. I mean, listen, she had to step into this tournament. She wasn't expecting to be in this tournament.
Hmm.
She's a rookie. I think she
Hmm.
did her job. Like,
Yeah.
she had good showings. She's getting a little bit better. She isn't even a year into wrestling. Like, I it's almost I want to give her like a not an incomplete because she finished the damn tournament, but it's like you're not even a year into wrestling. Like, what do you want me to do? But you watch her slowly get better. I think she had some pretty good matches as well. Um, considering the block she was in. Got to give her credit for that too. And like I said, she stepped up into a tough spot as someone so
Mm.
young and took it with stride.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, that's the end of your.
Yeah, I don't have much more to
Um,
say. She has good kicks. Liked her
she,
upsets
she
when she
over
got them.
Yeah, she over delivered. I was hopeful for how she'd do, and I was expecting more from the Blue Stars B block. Like we kind of identified that was going to be the most difficult block in
Yeah,
terms general to kind of rate what we're expecting from it, and for a lot of it, it was under delivering, but for a lot of
she
it,
felt like
Rani
the
Yagami was
overachiever
kind of
of that block.
yeah, and by a long distance. Like she was the one who kind of had the most reason to not perform,
Yeah.
but she was the one who kind of stood out the most for well, not stood out the most. Sayaka Matani stood out the most, but she kind of over delivered the most in that block. And I think for that alone, like she deserves at least the C grade. And I would at the very least put her over Koguma, maybe even Hanan, just in terms of like expectations.
Yeah, let's give the rookie the shine. Why not?
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
I mean,
Um,
she didn't necessarily do anything memorable, but she got chucked in there last minute, and I think what she did was definitely worthy of credit. Like she's a promising rookie, and she would have
yeah,
learned a lot from this tournament.
I think her overall stock rose a lot through her
Mm,
performances. I think heading into this tournament, I was feeling pretty great about Ron. I did watch through her little wave run that she did because she was in that tournament, the
mm,
future block as well, and she's a future star for them. So I think that's
mm.
like really the best thing you could say coming out of this tournament for her, and that's what we're saying. Um, all right, listen, we needed a D tier. We got to the D tier. I'm very sad about this. I'm not happy about this. I'm a big Risa Sarah fan. Always have been. She had, when her and Suzu and Prominence came in a few years ago, she was a real breath of fresh air, I think, and
Mm.
put on some really good performances. But she was not right in this tournament, and you felt it from start to finish. I don't think any match really stood out to be great for her, if not even great, good. Like the Suzu match was the closest thing to like a all right, but at the same time, it's a disappointment because I see Suzu and Risa Sera step in the ring. I expect them to absolutely deliver, and they didn't come close to that, especially at Korakuen Hall as well. So it was a bad tournament for her.
Yeah. No, if that was your definition of a good Suzuki Risa Sera match, if that's what you were expecting from a Sera
No, no,
Suzuki
no, no.
match, it's like you've not seen what either of them are capable of. You've not seen the years of history between them.
Yeah,
Like,
it just felt like a match
yeah,
between two wrestlers.
considering like the impact Risa Sera was going to have in this tournament, which
Yeah,
let's be honest, she was there just as the guest spot. Just kind of, oh, cool, Risa Sera. The amount that we talked about her behind the scenes was so much more than what anyone should have had, because
yeah,
we were legitimately dumbfounded what was going on, and we
yeah.
we don't want to speculate, yeah, what
The
the
Hana
situation
match
was.
scared me. So
Yeah, the Hanan match scared us. The Saki Kashima match scared us because there was clearly something going on across several matches. And it kind of felt like, especially towards the end of the tournament, they were kind of having to protect her. When her match with Tekla is probably the best match she had in the entire tournament, and that wasn't a match. Um,
yeah,
it's a really, and look, you're a big fan of Risa Sera. I'm a massive fan. I've gone to shows while I'm in Japan almost exclusively because she's booked on it,
yeah,
slash she runs the promotion that she's been booked on. Yeah, I'm a massive fan of hers, and yeah, really, really saddening to see ultimately what happened with her in this tournament.
yeah,
But there's no way she could be anything but in the D category for this. And I hope, like, if it was a some kind of situation that went on, like it's not a long term thing,
yeah. I
and
mean,
that,
she's still
yeah,
wrestling, so it's not like she's taking
yeah,
time.
but yeah,
Um, it's unfortunate. Obviously, again, she was not on the block to go, but it was beyond just the block itself for her. And it's really unfortunate. Her and Suzu, her and Tekla.
I mean, yeah, there's history in that block, that reason to be excited for, and like her and
The,
Hanan was a match that was quite interesting. Her and Saika Matani was going to be a, basically a tiebreaker match between them after the
yeah.
Wave series, and like that was a joke match, really. Like
Her
nothing
and
kind of
Saya did
tournament.
a lot better in the wave. Like they had
Mm,
like a really good match in wave.
yeah.
So like it was really shocking to see her in this tournament because she did do her and Wave was really good for the most part from
Mm.
the Saya matches I saw at least. Um
If you're relatively new to Stardom and slash Joshi, and if this was one of your, yeah, if this is sort of your first experiences of Risa Sera, it's not Risa Sera.
no, no, it is not. The matches with Tekla and Suzu were the standouts,
Mm,
but like they weren't really standouts.
mm.
Next up, speaking of not standing out, we have Ruaka. Ah, interesting. No excitement from Trent. I mean, Rocket did exactly what I expected her to do, but didn't. Besides the Konami match, I think
The
because the
Una
Konami
match
match,
was good.
the which one?
The Unum is a more
Oh
image was
yes,
good.
yes, yes. Well,
Yeah, that was probably
Yuna
her
was a
best
shining
match since the
star.
Hanan match.
Yes, I agree. I agree. That and the Konami ones entertain me a lot.
Yeah,
Um, but they weren't like the Unimama was pretty. It was good.
yeah.
But the
The
Konami one
Konami
was
match
like
was
it was just
entertaining.
fun.
The
Yeah,
Una match was a good match for her, and kind of that's what you want to see from her more
yeah.
often. But it's still very few and far between for her, and she's still young. Like it's not a case of like, oh yeah, it's time to write her off yet. But it's one of
It
those
just doesn't feel
situations
like she's
where you
into it.
do. It's starting to be okay. Well, we will want to see more consistency from her in the next year or two, or you start to go, okay, well, what's got to change here?
let's say this: when they did the play-in, I did not have Rock anywhere near the names I wanted to make it in. When the
Mm,
original play-in before
yeah,
Natsuko
yeah.
Tora was like, "I'm out," she's in. When things when things were making sense.
Mm,
Um, and I think it proved why in this tournament. Um,
mm.
I can't
I
put her
don't
in
mind
six.
her getting this spot as a chance to kind of, because
Sure.
when you got 28 people, it's a good, you want to give
Yeah.
chances for people to grow and prove themselves. But
I even think she had a fun run
unfortunately,
with
I don't think she
Cinderella
showed it.
this
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Because they put her in a really big spot, obviously, to
Mm,
do the Hanan story. And I thought she did pretty well. So I looked at that. I was
yeah.
like, okay, if you kind of just follow that, we'll be good. And she didn't. Obviously, she played to the hate stuff as well. So it's like,
Mm.
I
It was a lot
it
more
was,
hate centric this time.
yeah, yeah. It wasn't disqualification every match, but this is the same. She got disqualified when she was trying to get into it in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
they went for the heavy gambit, which, look, I mean, you can say it's next level chess, but
mm, I'm going D. I like
yeah, no, I'm not going to argue on that. It's above Risa Sarah, but like it's
love
not
Risa Sarah
not that
because
good.
ultimately Ruako is closer to my expectations than Risa Sarah was. Um,
I mean, Ruaka had better matches than Risa Sarah.
Better match.
Matches. Ruaka Konami was better than anything Risa Sarah had.
Entertain me more for sure.
Mm.
I don't need to have this debate. It's not worth it. Like, I don't care. I don't really care. I was like, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't need to think about this. I agreed instantly. Why am I? Then we had Saki Kashima, the queen of spoilers. They changed her theme song though, so that instantly loses her some points.
I
Um,
don't the Fist of the North Star, the Fist of the North Star theme is good though.
it is. It's just not Saki Kashima's theme, which I loved. So I was a little angry about it. But she was a great moving ad in this.
Yeah, they
She
got
was
their
great at
money's
doing
worth.
the sponsorship stuff. She did her role to perfection as Saki Kashima does.
Mm.
I don't have a lot to
How
say.
much do
She
you
did
measure that?
exactly. Yeah. The beauty of Saki is that you don't expect a lot from her. Like you just go into it having you go into it with okay, let's see, let's see how she wins and how quickly
Mm,
she
mm.
wins. And that's part of the fun. And I
Yeah,
think she did, like I said, her job really well. The Saya Kamatani match, perfection,
mm.
unbelievable, fantastic, love it. Would do it again. I remember circling that match. I was like, "That's the one. That's the one. The thing's gonna happen," and it did, and that's what mattered the most. Um, Saki's needed in these tournaments unless she
Yeah.
doesn't want to be in them, which originally she said she didn't, and then they put her in anyway.
Didn't matter.
Um, yeah, I was like, because Saki's gone through you know injury problems in the past. So, but when she has a tournament like this, she ain't getting hurt. So it's like it's fine.
Yeah.
Um, see, I mean, I don't.
I'd put her at top of C because, like, I mean, in
Yeah,
terms of
I
like
agree.
performance, she did everything you want and arguably went above and beyond. Like, yeah,
She was very
I,
fun.
what put it above and beyond for me was the Saya Kamatani match because it
Yeah,
would have been very easy for her to just come out and do the normal shtick.
yeah,
But then she came out and was quite serious about it, and like I really appreciated that change in personality
mhm.
for her.
It's so
Because
well
there's one thing like just giving the people what they want, which is classic Saki Kashima, but they leaned into the story more and kind of it felt like a more serious thing. And like, yeah, like for all the fun that Kashima brings, like there is a larger story at play here, and that gave you a much deeper look at the larger personality and something that, let's be honest, God's Eye sorely needs, especially right now, is that
done. Mhm.
deeper character building. So
I
I
agree.
really enjoyed Saki Kashima here, maybe even more so than
Yeah,
when she was doing the same shtick in Noedo Tai.
we're going on a hell of a run now, starting here. I think the
Mm,
kind of the remaining is a lot of interesting conversations. The next up, we have Sari Ano, who is a great tournament wrestler. I liked her tournament a lot last year when she entered the 5-star, and I walked away from this year feeling the same. I was like, she's just a really good tournament wrestler, better than her big title matches, I think, because
Yes.
they're quicker. They don't have they're missing the first 15 minutes. It's just the second half, which is really good. I loved her and Starlight Kid. That match,
Mhm.
like, absolutely stunned me how good that
Mm.
was. Like, I knew they were two of the best in the block,
So
but
that
I
was their
watched them
last
wrestle.
match.
Right, I watched them wrestle earlier this year. I was like, yeah, it's crazy what happens when Starlight Kid's babyface. Things just change. I think Sayori had a really good tournament. She's getting bonus points for me today because of her suffering at ringside on the final night of block play. That was great. Okay, like her
Yes.
sitting there and just being like doing math and being like I just wish they had a camera on her. Like you said it. You said it when we were watching it. You're like,
Mm.
they just need a camera on her the entire time in the corner of the screen,
Yeah.
just so you could watch her, like, because she was so good at reacting and just being like, oh no, here we go. I was really happy with Sayori's tournament, especially coming off the Wonder stuff, which was a headache by the end. Not her fault. I didn't have her doing the hot potato. I don't think she had her doing the hot potato either. Um, but I really liked her tournament. And again, she helped bring Blue Stars A up. Her going into the tournament, I was like, whatever. And then she had a really good tournament, some really good matches. Um, she was tasked with Anna Jay first as well. And for what I expected, they did that really well doing the upset.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I give her a nice golf clap, and I think she did a great job. Especially, and I also, the one thing I wanted her not to do was advance. Like, I was like, we've had a lot of Sayori winning. Have
You wanted
her
to
come
suffer.
up short. Well, no, I wanted
Yeah.
Starlight Kid to succeed more than anything, which I got, and she needed to suffer as a result, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I already knew, like, she's someone I've wanted so much more from, especially this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, her title reign had been a very big mixed bag for as good as the Hanan match was, and the Miko Iwata matches have been really good.
Mhm.
Whether you agree with the booking or not, the matches have been really good. But yeah, that's been kind of the peaks and troughs of the rest of the year. And I was just like, just give me a good tournament. Like, I haven't
Yeah.
necessarily liked your title run overall, but just give me a good tournament. She gave me a fantastic tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, she
The
did.
consistency across the board is what I was, as much as anything, what I was really looking for. Because, like, you can give me good highs, but when I'm also getting the lows, it's like, if you're going to be a top star in Stardom and you're going to be signed full time,
Yep.
I'm looking for that consistency, and I got that consistency. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think there's really a match that Sayori had where I wasn't enjoying. Like the Anna Jay
Mhm.
match, like, yes, it wasn't amazing, but first came off the rank, she did exactly what I needed. The Kogama match was entertaining. The Xena match ended up being a top 10 match of the tournament for me, which I wasn't necessarily expecting.
That was really good.
Starlight Kid match was a top 5 tournament for me. The Shuri match was really, really good. Like, it was just every time Sari went out there, she did what I needed. And, yeah, as you kind of said, her at ringside at the end there, like, all throughout her career nearly, she's been, even though she does show personality, especially when it's not like camera on her,
Yeah.
when she can kind of be off camera a little
Yeah.
bit, or yeah, she shows she's got more personality, but when it's focused on her, she's very ice queeny. But I have enjoyed over the past couple of months, like when things aren't going her way, the facade kind of breaking. And
Yeah.
now we're finally getting more and more of that. She's 10 times more interesting to me. And I
Yeah.
get you need the success and of the Ice Queen for that facade to break. But now that we're getting it, she's so much more interesting. And that's kind of built up through the tournament and now with the sort of failure on the final day.
They would say
It's just
Ori, she's a great wrestler. That was the
yeah.
problem with her Wonder Reign. It's like, I want everything to be great because I know she is great. And it
Mm,
just, the structure of matches was not beneficial to her at all
yeah.
times. But, you know,
For a lot of this tournament, she was in pretty much level stead for about probably 90% of the run as being the blue block MVP, like equal pegging
sure.
with one other person that we're to talk with. And in the end, she just missed out. But to be that close for that long speaks
Yeah.
to how good she was. So
Her,
because of that,
her,
I would put her.
her bad matches bad or good. Like they
Yes.
did the
Yes.
job, you know.
Yeah.
So
Which is
I think
what you want in the 5-star Grand Prix. You're not going to deliver like A+ matches every single night.
you know
Even Mayu had the Inaba match technically, but
we
when your bad matches are still enjoyable and
yeah
entertaining. That's all you ask for.
the top four in Blue Stars A we haven't got to yet. We're
Mm.
just doing with Sayori. They were like the best part of the tournament for me because their expectations weren't as high. Like they had very interesting expectations, right?
Yeah, it wasn't as locked in.
Right. Like Red Stars B, I was like, okay, I know what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
But Sayori, Kid, Shuri, and Xena, shout out to Xena, giving her a lot of credit here. I think she's comfortably in that conversation after all this. Um, they they really went out there each night and I think really delivered the best match they could.
Mm.
And it was very beneficial on those Blue Stars days because those days could be tough sometimes. So
Hmm.
I want
Hmm.
to give them credit. I think Sayori did great. I think you're right. I think she's really close to being that MVP. I think someone overtook her because of maybe a little bonus. Um, but I think Sayori deserves a high grade here. I'm
Yeah.
thinking either low B or high or low. Sorry, high B or low A, not low B at all. Um, and I will let you make that decision because I'm perfectly fine with either one.
Oh, she's definitely an A tier for me. I don't think you can discuss her in B.
Yeah, I think getting A. I was thinking mostly low A because like you, you'll see with the rest of that block and the higher ups. I think they just did so good at. I think they just impressed more because I
Mm.
remember going into the tournament. I looked at each block and I think Red Stars A, at least in my head, was like they should be better because it's
Mm.
got the big three. But I think these four especially really put them across here. But let's talk about Saida. What a run it was for Saida. Saida killed it in this tournament. Um, Obviously, she's in the best block, but she was a big reason that block succeeded as much as it did. Saida's this year has had a breakout year, whether it
Mm.
is the tag work, the singles work. Her and Tam was really good. Her and Mayu obviously was really good in that main event spot. They gave her the main event spots for a reason. Like Ida went in there and didn't miss. Her overall work has really went from this she's really entertaining to oh no, she's great. Like she
Mm.
is a great wrestler. She is a great powerhouse despite her size. Her lariats are phenomenal. And listen, I didn't expect her to make it out of this block or anything, but she got those upsets you wanted to see. Especially they placed her Tam match perfectly because at that time we all still believed in Tam. Shame on me for ever believing in Tam. That's what I get. And that upset was so well done. It was
Yeah.
so well done. And I just think her, like you said earlier with Momo, her and Momo had a really underrated match in this tournament. I don't think she missed ever. I just think she went out there and was Saida, and that's the best
Mm.
compliment I can give her.
Yeah. The only real knock on her tournament run is sort of by the end of it, you just weren't talking about her as much because the storylines overtook
Yes.
her because she wasn't in the running. Yeah, she got knocked out early enough that by the end of the run, 'cause when she
Mhm.
was having her matches with Momo and I think Inaba,
Yeah.
maybe not Inaba, but maybe May Sarah, the more interesting discussions were, oh, what about if X wins? They might be in with a shot and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But like the first week of the tournament, everyone was talking about Saida because she went out and had a main event match, not just a match, a main event match with Mayu Watani, which caught everyone's eye. And then the next night, she went out and had a main event match with Tam Nakano and got the win. And
Yeah.
obviously, like she probably wouldn't have beat Tam Nakano on any other month, on any other day of the year. But
Yeah.
necessity resulted in, Tam Nakano had to lose that match. And
Yeah.
just Saida was lucky enough to be in the block with Tam Nakano. But it resulted in Saida getting the biggest win of her career pretty much
Hmm.
in a main event spotlight. And, you know, importantly, it wasn't just she beat Tam, but Tam put her over after the match too. You look at what she was saying afterwards, and it's saying, hard work doesn't always get rewarded, but like Saida puts in the hard work. She's kind of the beacon
Yeah.
for hard work, and she deserves every moment here. And like
She
I
hit
was,
lariats on
yeah,
her knee. That was the best thing in the world. I was like, that's awesome. Like that just looks
yeah.
great.
Saida's been putting in hard work pretty much since she started wrestling, and like for years, people have been talking about, oh, Saida deserves the spotlight, and she deserves the moment, and it feels like she's finally catching up to
Mm,
that talk. Whether it was the new blood tag title run or just getting more and more spotlight moments on the main roster situations, it feels like people are finally starting to pay attention to Ida. I've been wanting to write about Ida for a while now, and after the Mighty match, I'm like, screw it, I'm going to write it. I'm going to write an article about Ida. And so I started writing stuff up. I thought I'll release it during the 5-star Grand Prix. Talk about Ida's pretty good. And then the Tam match happened. I'm like, oh well, okay, everyone's going to be talking about this now. And then the Tam quote dropped, and I'm like, oh well, this is perfect because like this backs up everything I was just about to talk about. And you can read that on RazuraMag.com.
where would you like to
I
place her?
think she's got to go in B block, right?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't going C. I'll tell you that.
Mm.
And just like middle somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Ultimately, like in the Red Stars B, as great as she was in those first few days, and like she had a fantastic tournament. I don't think she ended up standing out by the end of it as much as everyone
Sure.
else. And that's not a knock on her. That just speaks to how ridiculously stacked that entire block ended up being.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, she's probably at the bottom of that block through
Yeah.
no fault of her own.
Not her
It
fault.
just
No.
probably depends where you put her on the mic and Natsupoi situation.
Hmm. Not put her below Natsupoi. Not having that. I think in the middle.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think in the middle because Micah's end, especially right where Saida tapered
Mm,
off,
yeah.
Micah rose, and I think that's ultimately what hurt Ida because I think Ida was very consistent, but that
Mm,
Momo match, like you said, kind of forgotten because like they were both out of it, no one cared. But
yeah.
you know what? I cared, damn it. Yeah, she had
And
a great
Micah's
tournament.
best matches did end up matching Ida's best matches.
Yes, they did. That Osmi match for Micah is just that main event,
Mm,
just the
mm.
Shizuku Face shout out. They would be S tier, by the way. That entire show would just be S tier. That's my Stardom show of the year. So just like
It's
everything
a lot
about
of
it.
people's.
I couldn't name another one, so that probably helps. All right, let's talk about Saya Kamatani. This should be fun. Saya Kamatani had an interesting tournament, and we knew it was going to be interesting.
Do we put her where she started and then just gradually put her up through
Yeah,
as the
so
tournament
she
went
was
on?
dead last when the tournament started. I want that. She has the worst match of the tournament for me. Her and Tekla, I hated, pun intended, that match because it's her second match as a heel and she's playing a baby face. That
Mm,
was like, and they're doing like these. I still can't stand that match. But then it got better, and as time went on, Saya Kamatani was becoming Saya Kamatani again, just
mm,
doing the eye pose and the neck thing, like they just tossed that in. That's her heel work, okay? I've accepted this. And she's very popular, so good for
mm.
her. She was popular before that too, but whatever. We'll act like she had to become a heel to be popular.
It does feel like the new version of her has refreshed her with the
It
WWE
has.
fans.
It has. But she she ended Queen's Quest, so whatever. Yeah, she's so hard to place because she it was really bad at the beginning. Like I was not having a good
Yeah.
time. But her
She
match
was
with
the
Starlight
definition of
Kid,
that Blue Stars B block where it started horrifically and got better as the
yeah.
tournament went on.
But like for as much as I couldn't stand that match with Tekla, I adore her match with Starlight Kid. Like
Mm,
absolutely top of the line stuff between those two. Um, and I think her matches with Hanan, the first one where Hanan got the big
Yep.
upset, she was perfect. She was really she did really well in that role as the heel, trying
Yep.
to take her down, and then she did well again. I think Hanan was the right choice for her in that round, just for the
Mm.
character standpoint. And then, however you feel about the final, you feel about the final. But obviously, ultimately, I thought she should have won once we were down to those two in the final. So that tells you how I felt about Saya Kamatani throughout this thing. I went from just get off my screen to, well, at least she should win. And then she didn't, which I still think she's probably getting the queen in the main event based on certain things that we've gone with, but couldn't copy and paste the homework completely. From last year, if people want to figure it out, Tam versus Saya was supposed to happen in 2023. Anyways, so she's like the hardest person to figure out,
Yeah.
because I don't want to say she completely won me over yet, because I still think like the heel work has ways to go. But in terms of
Mm-hmm.
her wrestling, I know she can have great matches as a heel, and that was the most important part because I was so
Yeah.
scared for like 3 matches there. I was like, "Oh no, she's gone. We lost her."
Yeah.
And even so, like I talked to some people when she came back from injury, she didn't feel like Saya Kamatani for a long time. I think I don't
Mm.
think she fully made it. She never fully made it back to her peak, which was that white belt reign, and then that Starlight Kid match was like that's Saya Kamatani.
Yeah.
So I like to hear what you think because she is the weirdest one, but like you said, with Blue Stars B, and I think it's a lot to do with her, really. It's why, towards the end it finally got better. It's because she got better.
Yeah, but like it takes two to tango, and like that whole block had people
Oof, rough.
struggling to find
Yeah.
their identities. Like
I'm just giving
you
her
can blame.
benefit to bring it
Yeah,
up.
like the first match with Risa Sarah, that wasn't all on her. Risa Sarah was struggling all tournament. Tekla was struggling all tournament. Suzu Suzuki was struggling all tournament. Yeah, and like the Suzu Suzuki match, I think had some good things in it. The Hanan match
Sure.
had good things in it, both matches. Yeah, Starlight Kid obviously was, for me, that was the second best match in the whole
Mine too.
tournament.
Me too.
Both Hanan matches were fantastic. Yeah, to me, as I said, like it was kind of exemplary for the block as a whole.
Yeah.
For better or worse, Saya Kamatani represented that. For as frustrating as she was at the start, as the tournament was going on and as Saya Kamatani went on, it was like I didn't like it at first, and I still have issues with it, but I'm getting it. Like I can appreciate what they're going with it, and if she's having fun doing the heel gimmick, it's easy to get behind it because if you're having fun doing it, then it sort of comes through in the performance.
Sure.
Um, it'd be interesting to look at the how she's doing it, say in December if Tam Sai is the December main event. See what that looks like then, and
Hmm.
contrast it with the 5-star Grand Prix and how that's
Yeah.
evolved and stuff. Ultimately, I think I'm giving it a little bit of leeway because she literally just turned heel and was finding her way through the
Yeah.
tournament. So I give her more stock at the end of the performance rather than the start of the
Of
performance,
course.
especially compared with people who had their gimmicks from the start, aka
Yeah.
Natsupoi. Like she was
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
there, and just because she decided to add an armbar, like there's
It was
less
a
to
weird thing.
develop there. Yeah. So I would put her in B because by the end of the
Yeah.
tournament, like, I think she had found a pretty good balance.
Hmm.
Um, although, let's come back to this in a week or two's time and see where she still found that balance. But
Yeah.
I'd put her above Natsupoi, um, maybe even Ida. Depends how much you
I'm
value
thinking.
consistency
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the last thing I'll say about Sai Kamatani. She went
Yeah.
from feeling like the angry ex-girlfriend to actually being a character by the end.
Mm,
So the angry ex-girlfriend joke obviously is, everything was about Utami, Utami this, Utami that, Utami this, Utami that, staring, and yeah, exactly, terrifying. Thank you. Please stop doing that. It's way too late for me to just have you be doing that. But like I always said as the tournament went on, if you listen to my reviews, I said, listen, this was not good, but I'm giving her time because
Mm,
this is a brand new thing for her. It's going to take time. And in time, she got better and better. So I give her the benefit of that. I'll put her over Ida because of the Starlight Kid match. Um, Give her the big, you get a big boost because of how great
mm,
that match was. That's how Natsupoi got to the end of B, after all, with a great match. So,
yeah.
um,
Ida's getting screwed because she didn't get a proper Shinjuku face match, but that's the way it goes.
it's true. It's true. Like the power of Shinjuku face is strong
Mm,
throughout this tournament. Let's talk about Starlight Kid. Probably the second person I was most excited to talk about in this entire tournament. I thought she was phenomenal. Babyface Starlight Kid was like a fresh of breath air. She was everything we knew she could be, everything she was always going to be once she became babyface again. I said at one point she should just win the tournament, make the brand new star. That's how good she was. And I knew she wasn't going to win. Like, obviously, she is not beating Saya Kamatani in any of this. I understood. But damn it, they had the match to make me believe. And that's what matters. She killed it on night one with Shuri. She killed it with Seriano. Like you said, number two match in the tournament with Saya Kamatani. And I think she did really well with the Miyu Amasakis of the world. Her and Kogan was as expected. Her and Anna Jay, kind of the Anna Jay thing. It's like, yeah. But they worked on the leg, and that was an interesting way of going about it. And I think that was one of the interesting things of kids tournament is she really did focus on the leg work. And while I think Natsupoi wasn't great at the arm stuff, Kid has really honed in her skills on doing that and
mm,
doing the attacking the leg while not making it her entire offense because she's
yeah.
so exciting, right? Natsupoi's so exciting, but she made that her entire offense on matches, and it's like, boy, what are you doing? Starlight Kid didn't do that, but it
Mm,
benefited matches in the end. Um, and against the best in the block, she had her best matches in the block. And then, of course, her and Kamatani. I absolutely love Kid's run, and there's a reason I was excited to talk about her. For everything we were sad about at the end of last year with her, this tournament, and by the end of this tournament, I was like, we have gotten her back, and
mhm.
I think we've gone to the point again where it's like, all right, when's Starlight Kid winning a belt? Because it's like we've been there before, right? We're back to that point, especially now that she leads her own group as well.
Yeah, that's kind of the kicker. Like for the longest time, it's like Starlight Kid feels like she's just waiting for something to kick. Like she's been popular enough for what 3, 4 years now to be
Yeah.
a top champion, at least very least a white belt champion. She's been
Oh, for sure.
popular enough
Since
for
the
it.
heel
It's
turn.
just a matter of when are they going to give her the opportunity to hold the belt. But now that she's leading a faction, that's kind of like, well, if you're going to lead a faction, by default, you're almost like you a big enough deal in the company to
Yeah.
be a champion. Now it's just a matter of, well, when that's the point dropping the belt. Yeah,
Right.
I'm back on the train of like Starlight Kid should be the next white belt champion. I've hopped on that train about 3 or 4 times and been burned, but I
Yeah.
think I'm ready to like. I've bought the ticket. I'm not letting go of that ticket.
Poi finally
Uh,
got it, so we can buy the ticket again. Like
yeah,
Poi
yeah,
finally got
yeah.
it, so now it's Starlight Kid.
I've held
Kazuki
tickets
did
for a
get
few
it.
different wrestlers to be the next white belt champion, but Poi was always someone I've held that ticket for as well. But I think now that
There's a
she's
long
champion,
list. You folks should
yeah,
see the numbers of the paper that just is like, oh, I spent so much money on this ticket for poor Trent. You know, so many tickets for Jungle Kiona.
yeah, but like the VIP tickets have always just been like you always kind of get slapped in the face when you buy that
Yeah.
ticket.
You just
Starlight Kid's a
subscribe.
bit more
It's just
reasonable.
you're on a subscription service for Jungle Kiona along the way, and
I
it's just
keep
like
meaning to cancel that subscription. Like they haven't cancelled that subscription service yet. Um, anyways, this is the person I was going to talk to you about as maybe being S tier along with
I
Maya.
agree.
Simply, yeah,
Yeah.
simply because like if we're talking the red block MVP and the blue block
Mhm.
MVP. I think even if Mayu was several steps above everyone else in the
Yeah.
tournament, you can make a case for the two coloured MVPs being a tier on the S tier. I think
Yeah, my
Starlight Kid ultimately set herself apart.
in a perfect world where this company knows the history of each other, that would have been the final, because it just would have worked and everything was going so perfect. But since we don't know the history, it was never going to happen because they wanted Mike inside there. I understand, but yeah, Starlight Kid. When you even hinted at it, I was like, if it's not Starlight Kid, I don't know what he's talking about. So I'm happy we're
Clearly,
on.
Tekla.
I looked at the thing, I was like, no one. Like it, like, it's just like they're really like Starlight Kid was the best wrestler not in Red Stars B.
Mm,
I think that's as big a credit as anything because had she been in Red Stars B, imagine that run, right? Like imagine if she and May Sarah swapped. She would have had an unbelievable run that I think even more comfortably puts her in S. But the run she had, she set herself apart from everyone else throughout the other blocks. And to me, if you follow my series, I did the scoring. She had a score that was right with everyone in Red Stars B
mm,
without wrestling in Red Stars B. That should say all you need to know, I think, for what she did just on a performance level. Add in the
mm.
fact of just rising as a wrestler and advancing and having the incredible final match with Saya. Obviously not the finals, but her final match. I am cool with putting her in S. I think she deserves it. Um, and I think I like having the two blocks like overall, having the
Yeah.
red and the blue. Obviously she's not on Mayu's level in terms
Mm,
of
yeah.
what Mayu did, but you bring in the story, you bring in her accomplishing so much, and I do think she deserves that spot. Um,
Mm.
and it's nice to see them together. That was my
The
one
MK
complaint about this
sisters.
whole tournament. I didn't get my match between them. Uh, didn't get it last year either. Just had to wait forever now, and who knows
Yeah.
if I'll ever get it. Now let's talk about Suzuki. Um, Suzuki is someone I've defended many, many times, many, many times,
Mm,
because a lot of people tried to talk her down last year. I was like, no, she had a great 5-star Grand Prix. She's still Suzuki, and I still believe she should have been World of Stardom champion. I'll never let that go because she should have been it twice, and she got taken away from her twice. And I think all of that has caught up with her. I think there is obviously she came off an injury entering this tournament. So you felt that a little bit. But I do think there's a lot that she could have been that, it gets to your mentality after a while. And now she's in a faction where she might be number 3 probably. I don't think she's higher
I
than
don't think it's a
Azumi.
question.
Yeah, like I don't think she's higher than Azumi. She didn't advance in block action.
Mm,
Azumi did. She's really been pushed down. And I do think those types of things add up for a wrestler. Because at the end of the day, these are human beings too. There's a lot of backstage things going on. Seeing her biggest supporter is no longer there, right? Like the person that wanted her to win the world championship twice isn't there anymore. And I think we have watched her take many steps back, unfortunately. She doesn't have that same fire or didn't in this tournament that has always
mm,
been the Suzuki fire. I've had multiple people reach out to me like, "Did you feel she wasn't Suzu?" I was like, "Yeah, this isn't Suzu. She is Suzu. Like that is
mm,
she is Suzu Suzuki, but this is not the Suzu Suzuki that has been a prodigy and had some of the best matches of the year the past couple of years and had was arguably wrestler of the year a couple times. Like this isn't her. And it hurt me to watch because like I said, I'm such a big fan of her. I know you're such a big fan of her. And I think she started to get better towards the end. Like again, there was rust from being injured, but even so, I never got that standout Suzuki performance that I'm so accustomed to, and
Mm,
that was really upsetting to see for
yeah.
me.
I think another thing which is not necessarily being discussed as much. I think you bring out a great point. Like, there's probably that sense of like, a year ago I was winning this tournament. I was being primed to win the championship at 21 years old, and now my biggest supporter is gone. I'm kind of a bit lost in this faction. Uh,
She's also
but
like
like,
not acting like her entire gimmick, which was like, you know,
well, that's what I was going to bring up. Like, she comes into Stardom as basically a renegade outsider, as a deathmatch specialist. And
mhm,
although I think like she probably wants to join Neo Genesis because she gets to be with her friends. Yeah,
yes,
I think the group that she's in here, like that's the people she wants to hang out with, and
of course,
you you kind of hang with your faction the most. You train with your faction, so it makes sense to join Neo Genesis from that perspective. But the kind of not party girl, but the young hip, Shibuya 109 girls culture of Neo Genesis clashes a bit with the punk rock deathmatch style that she carried with her into the company.
yeah,
And you see it in the way she kind of carries herself in the matches. It's like she's torn between being that counterculture, you know, hardcore style, and being that kind of cool, cutesy aspect that
bubbly, yeah,
Genesis it's built around. And it's difficult for her to kind of build who she's meant to be in 2024, which I think is probably carrying into how she carries herself in the ring. Now, do I think she'll find herself? Absolutely. She's
mhm,
21, 22. She's too young and she's too good not to make this work. But
yeah,
I think you combine that with the injury, with maybe the confusion in the locker room, losing some support, not really knowing what's her standing in the company, and probably the internal competition of at her age. And she left the comfort of prominence and freelance to the hyper competitive industry of Stardom, and now being third, maybe even fourth in her faction,
yeah,
behind people her own age. So it's not even like, oh, I'm behind Shuri, who's her
yeah.
senpai, but people that the same age as her. It would be a difficult situation, and maybe she hasn't built the connections in the company to she can have solace going to someone saying, "How do I deal with this?" Even Julia, that she probably would normally go to and confide in, she's on the other side of the world now. Like,
That's
it's
a
a very difficult
big part
situation
too.
for her. Yeah, and look,
She's
we're reading into this. We don't know
we
her.
are
We can only assume this stuff, but it would be a difficult
we
situation.
we know enough of what she's dealt with over the past year to,
Mm,
human beings
yeah,
deal with emotion, okay? Like that is a real thing. And
yeah,
she finally got to be back with Julia and then Julia's gone, right?
mm,
Like
yeah,
that's another big part that I do think will be undersold,
mm,
just overall, because that was obviously a real relationship. We saw real emotions shown in the ring between those two many times.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, it's really tough for her. And
mm,
I'm with you. I know she'll find it. I mean, her and May Sarah as Crazy Star had some fantastic matches this year. They have one
yeah,
of the best, probably one of the best tag matches of the year. I can't say the best anymore, but one of the best tag matches of the year. Like she's still capable. I think
yeah.
there's just a lot going on for her, and it's all mixing at one point. And
I honestly
it
think it's a credit to the roster that less people have shown signs of
yeah,
struggle with everything that's gone on
yeah,
this year in the company. You
yeah,
know, Susie's probably the one that's maybe outside of, say, Mayu, that's outwardly shown maybe the most confusion of what she meant to be doing right now. And
yeah.
it makes sense that there's kind of a half gimmick change because it's not a full gimmick change. She's still
No,
showing elements of that, but it's not a full commitment either way.
yeah,
Yeah, she got better as the tournament went on. Um,
yeah.
First couple of matches were really rough, combination of ring rust and not really connecting. Honestly, like I'd say Stardom got it right, and probably her best match was the Tekla match, which if you'd polled me going into the tournament what her best match was going to be, that would not have been on my list. But that felt the most like the old Suzuki. And
And
that's
maybe
that's
it's
what I
because
want
of
from her.
the ice ribbon connection as
Yep.
well. You know,
Yeah. But
um,
that's what I look for her, that kind of ferociousness and that
and
unleashed
even so,
aspect.
that match compared to Suzuki's best matches is like nothing. No
Oh, for
offense.
sure. Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah,
that's
but
that
that's what I look for. Yeah, that's the
yeah,
elements I
it
look.
was
We
the
got a
like
bit of that there,
it
and we
was the
got a
only
bit of
match
it in the
really.
Saito match, but
Yeah.
it's yeah. Hopefully that kind of reminded her of, oh, yeah, that's right. That's what I'm about, and I can
Yeah.
still kind of be a bit of Shibuya 109, but I can just kill people in the process.
Yeah, it's a balancing act that she's gonna need to figure out
Mm.
in time. But yeah, like I said, I mean, this past year has been a lot for her. It's just
Mm.
overall standing. Like, listen, I remember her face when Tam had to relinquish the title at that press conference. It wasn't a happy face whatsoever. And then she's gonna win the title again, and then that didn't happen. So, like, again, it's a lot. I can't go. Obviously, I'm not going anywhere higher than probably low C, truthfully, and
No,
that's
no, no, definitely not.
and it's just kind of comes down to where you think because I think we did at least see the slow upward momentum to not
Yeah,
put her in like D, but for what I expect from Suzuki,
yeah, yeah. It's similar to Hanan in the sense that like she's
yeah,
getting dock points because of expectations.
yeah,
Um, she's below Hanan for me,
yep.
because I think Hanan ended up having higher highs. Um, I, I'd probably put her below Koguma, as much as it hurts
Yeah,
me to say.
I think that's a fair spot. And considering who's behind her, which is Miyu Hamasaki, who wrestled like very little time.
Mm,
Anna Jay, who we know what she was going into it, Konami, who we openly were upset with. It was a sad tournament for Suzu.
yeah.
Let's talk about Shuri. Shuri's a very interesting one as well. Obviously, Shuri's
Mm.
great. But compared to the last couple of years,
Pretty invisible tournament for someone that like
was in it.
if you'd asked us who we expected to have a S tier tournament, like
Yeah,
Shuri would have been one of the first people we mentioned.
yeah.
She didn't have a bad tournament, but like in terms of like the big four in that Blue Stars A tournament,
I thought she was the weakest.
yeah, yeah, which surprised
Never,
me. And
ever would I say that going into this. I
mm,
mean, weakest, but still good. To be fair, okay.
oh
So
yeah,
like,
she didn't have a
yeah,
bad run. It's just like I thought, like her and
she was
Sayori had a
expected to
good
be A
match.
at the minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have thought if you told me she had anything less than that, I would have been like, "Oh, did she get injured halfway through?"
Yeah, the
And
Sayori
she
match was a letdown.
yeah, it was good, but it could have been better.
Yeah.
The Starlight Kid match was great.
Yes.
But yeah, it was just kinda like after I think the first couple of nights, she was just kind of there, and she put on good matches, and, like, the Xena match was really good. But
Really
even
like.
that kind of Xena ended up having better matches with probably Starlight Kid and Sayori, and everyone in that kind of top 4, I thought ended up having better matches with each other outside of Shuri,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. She was still Shuri at times, but I
Mm,
think this is the. I had this conversation going into this. Like Shuri is unfortunately, I think, in the role that New Japan puts like older wrestlers in, where it's which is ridiculous because Shuri's still one of the best in the world. We see it whenever she gets the chance. She has one of the
mhm.
best matches of the entire year this year. So it's like I think that's my like upset. It's not her fault. She has been
No. Yeah.
leveled down, and you have felt it through this tournament. She has been easily the past couple of years the at least the best in her block, right?
Mm, mm,
And this year she was not. Um, I really liked the Xena match. I really liked the Starlight Kid match, but the Sayori one was probably the weakest between the four. I'd say off the top of my head.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that I thought could have been the match of the block. So that
Mm,
should tell you everything you need to know. Um, I'm not going to put her in C
no, no.
because she's still too good. Like she was still too consistent and good for that.
Mm.
Um, but at the same
Yeah, she didn't have a
time,
bad match.
I mean, uh, her Corkin match was with Anna Jay. So like when Sayori and Kid went out there and killed it, you know,
Mm.
they're learning along. She's teaching along the way, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's how Shuri attacks her matches with her and Amasaki, right? She's teaching more than
Mm.
anything probably in there. So I'm thinking B, but like end of B.
Yeah, I'd put her behind Ida at least. Maybe behind Natsupoi because Poi had a bigger highlight match.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I'll never
Yeah.
put her below B. I don't want to live in
Yeah.
a world where Shuri's below B. The fact that she's below A already hurts me. But it's the reality we live in this
Mm.
time. Let's talk about Tam. Tam had a really good tournament. Okay, I understand
Mm.
the record wasn't very good, but as you and me said, like whenever she was eliminated, which was the Corkin, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was Turrican where she got eliminated.
You said it perfectly. She is trying way too hard to not be getting something out of this, which was true because she was great. Like, I think Tam's had a really good year, like overall, because she,
Mm.
while she's taking a back seat, she's had really good matches. And we all knew where inevitably she was going. We knew that world title was going on her. It was just a matter of when and how convoluted would it be to get there. Never did I ever imagine how convoluted it would be. But she had really good matches. She opened up with
Mm.
Mayu. Obviously, that was great. Her and Ida, we talked about earlier, was really, really good. Her and Momo obviously played to the hate factor very well. Trying to think. Her and Sarah was
Nasumi
good.
was really good.
Yes. Her and Azumi was really good. That I really liked that one. I liked all of her matches. Like I thought she had like I said, a really good tournament. But we've been also including your results, and she did go 0-6. Now it was to tell a story, not a good one.
Big
But it was
brained play.
yes, big brain. I don't need to win. I don't need a knee. And sometimes the person that injured the knee originally forgets about it halfway through the match. It's crazy. Tora, you could have just had a better game plan. Just saying. Your knee was in more pain than hers was by the end of that match. But yeah, I mean, Tam had a great wrestling tournament.
Yeah.
So like
This is the best she's looked in the ring.
2021.
Consistently, probably, yeah. Because I
I
mean,
think she had a
obviously
great
she's had
2021
higher
tournament.
highs. Like matches against Julia and stuff have been better,
Sure.
but they should be because they're title matches and stuff. But consistently, like over the course of several weeks and stuff,
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
Yeah. That's how I felt about her year. That's why I got on the
Mm.
Tam Road heading into the tournament. And then they just said, ha, joke's on you for ever believing. So yeah, I think she's comfortably in B.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in terms of just pure in-ring performance consistency, she's in that kind of Micah Kamatani region.
Yeah.
It just depends on how much we're valuing success.
I would put her in the middle because she
Yeah,
didn't have success, but she had more consistency than Saya for me
that's fair.
throughout.
I mean, arguably, she's had more success than all of them because on the night that Micah won the tournament, Tam did win the title.
This
It's
is
within
true.
the tournament block,
Yeah. Yeah, that
technically.
didn't actually count as a tournament match, but in the end, she
It
really did
happened
win.
during the tournament.
In a way, I almost want to put her over Micah just as a haha. You had to go through all that, and I already got the belt, buddy. But we won't do that. All right, let's finish this. We're almost at 2 hours and 30 minutes. Tech led a tournament. Oh, the amount of times. Listen, the crowd doesn't know what you're saying. Okay, stop. You have to say it 7 times.
I like the commitment because she speaks really good Japanese.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not a Tekla fan. I've been pretty open about this. I think for the highs, she had the lowest match for me, and her highs weren't high. Like her highs
Mm-hmm.
weren't high enough to make up for, like, say, Saya Kamatani.
Yeah.
She was the embodiment of hate. She and my problems with the group overall. Um, I see a comfortable spot for her with two other people, but
Mhm.
I'll let
Yeah.
you go on Tekla.
Look, yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and particularly defend her. The technically, the Tekla matches were probably the matches I was the least looking forward to because, like, at least with the Ruaka matches, there's that sense of, like, she's still young, and even though she's
Yeah,
been in the company for a while, it's still like, okay, where's the development coming? What can we expect from her?
sure.
Tekla's pretty much the finished product. We know what we're getting from her, and even though she's developing the hate persona a bit, like, we know what we're getting from her. I'm not a big fan of her as a singles wrestler. I like her as a tag wrestler a lot more.
Hmm.
But yeah, as a singles wrestler, I've seen what we get from her, and
Yeah,
I'm not a particular fan. Um, she ended up giving us some okay stuff, like the best Risa Sarah match for what that's worth, the best Suzu Suzuki match for what that's worth. But again, they were the bottom of the barrel kind of things, and I still didn't really enjoy Tekla as a wrestler. Um, it really comes down to where on the D list we're going. It's above Risa Sarah.
yeah.
Um,
I'm putting her under Waka personally, but like honestly, it is like the same way. Like she's the finished product, so
yeah,
like, and
yeah. There's two Tekla matches I can really name, and there's two Ruaka matches I can
yeah,
name. It
they're
just
tied.
yeah, it's
They're tied for
yeah,
the love of hate. Congratulations to them. But I'm really excited about these final three. These final three all had very interesting terms going in. And I think did their best to stand out. Tomoka Inaba, our final name for the Red Stars B block. The only reason for me that she like accidentally had the weaker tournament is because she didn't have the Mayu bump. Everyone else got the Mayu bump. She didn't get it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was really unfortunate because that was one of the matches I had circled at the very beginning. I
Mm,
was like, oh, here we go. And then little did I know, it's like, oh, we got to rush through this. And I was like, oh, really? We have to? But she had a great tournament. Her opening night with, was it May Sarah? Yes, opening night
yes.
with May Sarah. I really enjoyed this, even though they went to a draw, which was a good surprise draw. Because I was like, oh, okay,
Mm,
sure. Like it wasn't a bad draw for me. I really liked that match. I think she worked well and even so better with people that I like her and May Sarah. I was like, I don't know. Like that's a weird connection, but they made it work.
mm.
Her and Azumi made it work. And she gets the nice Tomoe battle bump at the end as well, which I really loved. I loved that match. I was like, why don't we do more of these?
That
Like
feels
in
like something
wrestling.
they need to do with especially the high speed division. Like,
Yeah.
let's bring that back a couple of times.
Yeah. The Tomoe battle's
Not
nice. Like
too
it's
much, just occasionally, just to keep it fresh.
yeah, don't overdo it, but
Mm,
do it more than we do, like overall, in wrestling. I think it's a very unique styled match, but it's
yeah.
very entertaining, keeps you locked in, and I think it's an interesting way to tell stories within a match as well. So she
Mm,
did a really good job in that, and I think she just really carried herself well.
mm,
Tomoki Inaba is a very interesting wrestler for me because her highs are so great, but she can fall into the Taka Michinoku teachings of we have to do grappling and stuff like that. She didn't do that in this tournament, and it was wonderful. Like I don't think she hit anything close to the Micah match. Again, she didn't get the Mayu bump, so it's
yeah.
baloney. But she had a really good tournament, and I'm just happy she's around, honestly.
Yeah. She didn't necessarily get the spotlight match opportunity. Like, a lot of people kind of in her spot got that kind of main event opportunity where, like, you'd kind of get the chance to sort of show out. She generally got like a mid-card match against your bigger names where it's like you can go out there and put on a good match, but may not don't steal the show, but like where your Micah match would, give you the time and give you the spotlight, that wasn't her chance. Where Ida got a couple of main event matches, Azumi got her Mayu match, which was a main event match, and she didn't really get that chance. But I thought she made the most of pretty much all the chances she did get, and she put on a really good performance. And that is kind of what we've said about everyone in Red Stars B. She did a fantastic job, as everyone in that block did. It
Mhm.
just comes down to where her position was in that block. Yeah,
So obviously
she
we have
kind of,
Ida here.
yeah, she had more success than Ida. I don't think she. I guess she'd probably end up around where do you think she would go?
I
She's
have
in
no
B.
idea. So, hmm, this is really weird how this is broken down. Because like, cause I'm looking at B, and B's like all meshed up in my mind. Cause like,
Between
obviously
like
we're using
success wise, it'd be kind of near May Sarah, but I don't think she necessarily had as
no.
many notable like
Do we want her
as
just
many
ahead of
notable
Ida?
matches. Yeah, yeah,
I think because I don't think I
yeah.
want to put her ahead of any of those three. I understand Tam didn't have success, but consistency and I
Mm,
can't put her above Kamatani.
no,
But I think
no.
it's a great spot for her. It was something I've been waiting
Mm,
to see from her overall. So yeah, happy to see Inaba there. Let's get to Xena. Obviously, her past couple months have been a real breakout for Xena. I
yes.
remember going to that World of Stardom title match. We're like, we'll see. I had hope, but I was like, we'll see what it ultimately. And she absolutely knocked it out of the park, and knocked it out of the park. And we entered the 5-star, and I was like, let's see again. She gave Anna Jay the best match of her career. Add in that her and Sayori was great. Her and Shuri was great. Her and SLK was like she killed it. And her and Miyu Amasaki, very entertaining on night one.
Her and
Like,
Koguma was fantastically
yes,
fun.
like hell of a tournament for Xena. Like,
Mm,
truly, I don't think I had high expectations, and I think
mm,
she still blew them out of the water in terms
yeah.
of her overall performance. She's someone that like I watch. I'm like, please never leave. Like, just stay. Like stay in Japan, please. You're too, and because she's only getting better, right?
Mm.
And I'm a sucker for the amazing chops that she does to these poor people. I feel bad, but not really, because they're very entertaining. She's high B for me, at least.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, small part of me wants to say low A,
Me
but look,
too.
I'm an Australian, and yeah,
No,
there
no,
is
but
certain bias. I'm
I
not
think
gonna
she
lie.
deserves it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to say low A, but A is for Australia, and like I wave that flag. But
A
she had
is
a
for
phenomenal
Australia.
tournament. She went in with certain expectations because definitely like that for red belt match with Micah changed the game completely for her. She got put in that spot, and everyone was kind of, even the people who believed in her were kind of like, oh, that's a bold move. At the very least, like, are you going to be able to sell the tickets? And everyone left that match going, okay, that's good on her. She made the most of that chance. And then it was like, okay, let's see how you go over a tournament. And now it's just like, if you aren't believing in Xena, you're not watching Stardom,
Yeah,
because she
she's
works
one of the
across,
best parts of Stardom.
yeah, multiple levels against multiple different opponents. She clearly meshes with the roster. And like, it's not just like, oh, she can slap people and make their chests go red. Like, the
Oh, that is pretty
matches
great.
flow well. Oh, it's a wonderful spot, but like the matches flow well. Like, it's actually good wrestling as well.
Yeah,
But yeah, it'd be a real shame if she leaves for one reason or another. And I have to imagine like the big companies now have her squarely on the radar, and it's just going to come down to a, does she want to leave for America? B, her relationship with Darga. Put a ring on it, mate. And C, like, money. But like, it looks like she loves it over there. It looks like she loves him. And yeah, let's keep her over there. Get some more championships on her. Give her a
yeah.
reason to stay in Japan.
She is.
Because
She's the first foreigner, and I obviously loved Mariah May. I
mm,
couldn't say more great words about her, but she's the first foreigner where I think if she just stays a little bit longer, she gets in the conversation of winning a top belt because she's just getting
mm,
better. And that's not an easy conversation to have, but when you're
Yeah.
delivering at the quality she does and you're able to wrestle, I think, everyone's style. Like I just watched her wrestle a high speed match. Was it a blow away high speed match? No, but was she able to do it? And that amazed me alone because like she stopped doing the chops. Well, she did one, poor May Sarah. But like she went out of her way to play to that. She
Mm,
clearly wants to get better and improve in many ways. And I watched her step into a main event against Micah and deliver
yeah.
one of the best defenses of Micah's entire reign. So like she gets as much credit as anyone. I think she did an incredible job. Um, she is going to whenever her stardom runs over, and I hope it's not for a long time. She's going to go down as one of the best foreigners they've ever had.
Mhm,
Um, and I'm so happy she came back to do this run
mm,
because
yeah.
she started to show it towards the end of her first run, and we are like, no, no, not now. Like, please come back. And she did. And she has effectively been the number two in her faction as a
Mm,
result, right? Mina's not
yeah.
around. And
I don't know
she
what
needs
EXP looks like next year, but if she's there for most of next year,
yeah,
she should at the very least hold the tag titles.
I agree. If they want to team her and Micah up in the goddess, they should
Mm,
be among the favorites, I think.
yeah.
They don't have to win because I know Micah won last year, but
Yeah, that'd be a bit repetitive to have her win with a foreigner, but
yeah. At least this one has like a full on connection. At least they're in the same faction. The other one was like, oh yeah, they liked each other for 2 seconds, so here you go. Okay. Though I did really like Micah and Megan Bain.
oh, they were
Uh,
great together.
they were
Yeah.
great. So like I wasn't upset with it. But
Mm,
yeah, no, Xena's done a great job. You know what, we're gonna put her in low A. I think she did
respect
a
the
great
culture. I appreciate
yeah.
it.
Yeah, why not? Because I just think she stood out in every way, and I think did Momo and like Sarah and Tam, did Red Stars B have better overall like in ring? Maybe, sure, probably, but for what her block was and for her expectations, I think she went above and beyond all around to the point where I was like, she could qualify. I wouldn't be upset with it, you know.
Mm.
So great job for her, and A for Australia, like you said. So it's the way it goes. We'll give her the Australian bump, shall we? And let's end with
Not A for
Unimizumori.
Anna J though.
No, 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 that doesn't exist. And let's end with Unimizumori, a very consistent quality tournament. She did a great job. She never got to win, but Tam didn't either,
Mm.
So where's her title
Yeah,
match,
yeah,
huh?
where's Yuna's red belt match?
Yeah, not fine. Wonder, give me one of them. Unimon is someone that people love for good
Mm,
reason. She puts everything she can into her matches. Maybe not everyone else does, but she does. And I think she got the best out of everyone she could. Ruaka, her match with Suzuki was a real bright spot for me in that tournament. I
mm,
really loved that match. That was just like the ultimate like Suzuki performance, but Unimon had that consistency throughout, so she gets a lot of
yeah.
credit for that. Um, her and Mike had a good powerhouse match. That was actually when her and Mike had the match. I was like, why is this for me as good as the Poi match? That's not supposed to happen. Like that's not what was supposed to happen. But Unimon came into this as a underdog, wrestled a great underdog yet powerhouse style, and gets
Mm.
over. And I think that's very important. She's done that since she's joined Stardom, and she did it again in this tournament. I will not go lower than B. Ow!
No, 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 no.
That was my hand.
She
It's
absolutely
gone.
deserves B. She like her level of performance was like didn't get highlighted because like she was the undercard performer and she didn't get spotlight moments, but she got the best out of everyone in that Red Stars A block, as you mentioned. Like even the Natsupoi match was probably Natsupoi's best match until like she got to the quarterfinals against Mayu, because that was a really good match. Oh, sorry, against Azuki, I should say, because that was a really good match. And the match against Manami was really good as well. Like, Unimon just knows how to get the right match out of everyone, and but she knows how to do it and get the crowd engaged as well because she's just got that infectious personality. She's been
Yeah.
doing it for years back in Ghetto Move, Shock Horror. Like Emmy Sakura knows how to train them. Like that's just what she does.
Yeah.
And it's great to see it on a bigger platform. And like you see what she does in Stardom, and it feels like it's only a matter of time before it starts to get appreciated. It's very much in that kind of Saya Eater from a year or two ago, where like you see what she's doing, it's just like at some point this is going to get recognized, and
Yeah.
you know, unlike Ida, who is just kind of, I mean, obviously she's showy with her muscles, but Unimon's just so loud that at a certain point you just have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely a B. Um, it's kind of in that Anaba, Ida, Poi range, I think, for me, in terms of performance. The
Mhm.
lack of wins definitely hurts, but just the consistency across the board was hard to avoid. And yeah, I think that's fair.
She has
I
to
do
be next
also
to Boy
appreciate
because
that
they're
she's
doing the same
basically
pose. Yeah.
pulling the same
Yeah.
pose.
It looks great that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is our tier list. If you're listening on podcast platforms, I will tell you it in order so you know how it ended up. So we'll start at the D from left to right. We have Ruaka leading the D tier with Tekla and Risa Sarah. Not what I expected at the beginning of this tournament. Well, at least one of them. C tier from left to right. We have Saki Kashima leading the way, then Manami, Rana Yagami, Hanan, Kogama, Suzu Suzuki, Miyu Amasaki, Ana J, and Konami. Feels like Suzu Suzuki feels like the Starlight Kid from the year review we did last year. Like just the I don't want to do this, but we have to type thing.
Hey, that proves we're not biased, because if we were biased, she'd be
Yeah.
higher.
It's true. It's true. There's a lot of non-bias, I think, in here actually, which is actually impressive, except for A for Australia, but it's deserved. Uh,
You
from
got to
left
give us
to
one.
I know from left to right in B, we have Momo Watanabe, Mei Sarah, Micah, Tam Nakano, Saya Kamatani, Tomoki Inaba, Saida, Natsupoi, Yuna Mizumori, and Shuri. From left to right in the A tier, it's Azumi, which happened a decade ago, it feels like. Hazuki, Suriano, and A for Australia, Xena. Shouts out. I don't even, you know what? Shouts out to Xena. Great performance. And then in S tier, your top two competitors in the tournament this year. It's one, Mayu Iwatani, and then Starlight Kid. So thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate you taking part in 2.5 hours of us rambling on about every contestant. I'm exhausted. I'm sure Trent's even tired, and Trent's in the middle of the day for you. But it was a lot of fun going through this tournament again and kind of just putting it all together. So thank you everyone for listening. But before we go, we got some plugs to do, even though Trent, I think, hit most of them during the show. So Trent, where can people find you? What do you got going on? And all that jazz.
So you can find me on Twitter/X at OneUpCulture. As Scott mentioned, most of my plugs have been hit already because they are relevant to the Five Star Grand Prix. But my most recent pieces were the top 10 matches of the Five Star Grand Prix and a piece on Saida, which kind of covered what happened in the Grand Prix, but obviously goes back through her entire history. Both of those can be found on Resura, which is www.resuramag, resuramag.com. I will also have a piece covering the top 10 matches from the Marigold Dreamstar Grand Prix when that finishes. That's still happening as of the recording and release of this. So that'll come out when it comes out. Other stuff is also happening on Razura. We're about to release. I think it won't have come out when this releases, but it'll be coming out soon. We're doing the top 100 Joshi as of the past year. That'll be coming out very, very shortly. A big collaborative process with everyone from Razura and a few people who came to us with the idea. Be sure to check that out. If you like,
Even I'm
obviously
involved.
ranking, yeah, even Scott's involved. He did a lot of work behind the scenes for us, sort of getting stuff involved. Peps is
I just
involved. So yeah, be sure to keep an eye out on that one. Big process. A lot of
yeah,
respect for people who do lists like that, because I've not been super involved with it. I've seen a lot of the behind the scenes work that's gone in getting that list together. Um, yeah, it's a big one, as you can imagine. 100 100 Joshi, ranking them all, trying to
Yeah.
get that list sorted. But that's coming soon, so be sure to check that out on Resura, RESURAMAG.com.
Yeah, I'm just contractually obligated to do the SRE part. I'm not needed for anything else. I was actually told I had to do that part, which was great. Yeah, but definitely check that out, resumermag.com, as you spelled out so eloquently twice. Twice. You did it twice. My hand hurts so much from accidentally smashing it on this table. So you follow me at Scott E Wrestling on Twitter. By the time this is out, my interview on Fightful with for Australia, Xena, should be up
Ooh,
on the YouTube channel. We had a great time talking her match with Micah, the 5-star Grand Prix, and how tiring that was. It was right after her high speed match as well. So, spoiler alert, she said that the high speed match was far more difficult than the World of Stardom title match, which was one of my favorite things in the entire thing. But listen to her, 43 minutes she talked to me for. So, definitely go check that out. Do I have anything else going on? Oh, well, yeah, youtube.com/at Scott Eat Wrestling if you want to see my day by day Dream Star Grand Prix reviews. I'm doing one every single day. It is up, so unless it's video on demand, it is up the day of that show. This past weekend had a Shinkiba first ring show, which was live on Wrestle Universe, and of course, Cork and Hall show on Monday featuring Sari versus Mikuano and Utami versus Mirai. Pretty big deal. Probably, very exciting times here in the world of Joshi. But that's it. We're happy to be back. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We're back on our regular schedule. Don't ask us what we're talking about because we don't know. But anyways, this is the Stardom Road podcast right here on the Count Out Podcast Network. Until next time, see ya.